whole meeting is tapping. It's like Morse code.
It's sort of like getting a root canal.
Good, good. All right. Good evening and welcome. It's Tuesday, May 15th, 2018, and this is the Carlisle Board of Selectmen meeting. Let's see, I was just going to tap my pen again there. As is customary, I'll read through the agenda. We're going to try to stay on topic as best as possible, but sometimes we do take these things out of order as needed. So 7 o'clock, we have community input. 7:05, we have the board reorganization. 7:15, the approval of the conservation easement for Bingham Road Lot 1. 7:30, the discussion of the Colonial Power Group Municipal Aggregation review of indicative pricing. 8:30, we have CETF, discussion of financial projections for the solar projects. So that's the Carlisle Energy Task Force. 9 o'clock, cemetery deeds. 9:05, Tim's Town Administrator's Report. 9:15, Wayne's going to be here, right? Wayne's coming, right?
He is.
Yeah, so we're going to just do a quick recap of the annual town meeting. 9:45, Board of Selectmen Liaison Reports. 9:55 will be minutes, and 10 o'clock we will adjourn. I like how you always seem to end it at 10. It doesn't matter how tight the end of the agenda gets, but we're just trying to squeeze it in for 10. So, all right, so 7 o'clock, community input.
Good evening. Larry Bearfield and Robin Emerson, 1127 North Road, no longer Fern's Country Store. You've probably heard the news that we have, after 15 years, retired, and we wanted to stop by and thank...
Because we have the time.
Because we have the time, exactly, yeah. And we don't have to get up really early tomorrow, so we can sleep in. So we're
We
glad
can stay
to
for the
be
whole meeting.
We could, all the way till 10.
till 10, yeah. But we wanted to thank the board, members of the board in the town for 15 years of interesting activity and all the support the board has provided, and we appreciate it, we really do. And we also want to take the opportunity to introduce Matt and Jen Herwick, who are the new owners and the carriers on of the tradition of Ferns, and we wanted you to meet them.
I'd say.
Good evening, I'm Matt Herwick, 157 Berry Corner Lane. My wife Jen, this is Levi and Sawyer, and we're the new owners of Ferns as of yesterday afternoon.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Just wanted to introduce ourselves to you guys. I see a few familiar faces, and yeah,
I'm sure we'll
be seeing a lot more of you guys as we
least
get more
annually.
involved.
Yeah.
Yes, both here and at the store.
Yes, yeah. Great.
We just want to introduce ourselves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and Larry and Robin, thank you for all that you've done
Yes.
for Carlisle over the past 15 years. I mean, and beyond. I'm assuming you guys are still going to stay active in the community. I hope.
We'll be in the community. We're going to take a rest. We're going to find a warm beach, I think, and
Well deserved. Well deserved.
relax a little bit. So we're not leaving town. We're staying. We're 22 years here, and we like the town, so we're staying. We look forward to that. So. And I think, I'm sure the board will show the same courtesies to the new owners as you did to us, and that makes it easier to do business in this town.
Yeah.
So,
And you'll love them,
yeah, they're great.
just like us, but a lot younger.
Yeah, they can stay till 2.
There you go. Great. Great.
Thank you for
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, so now my favorite time of the evening, 7:05, the board reorganization. So I guess, typically we have a general discussion about this. I guess we can see if anybody's interested, what people are interested in. Typically, the vice chair moves into the chairmanship, but that's not necessarily always the case. And I know, Carrie, you and I have talked, with your travel and the gap that you usually have. You didn't necessarily feel that it would be the best thing for the board or the town. So you were a great vice chair. I appreciate all that you've done. It's certainly been helpful. But yeah, I think that makes sense. So
Somebody who is remote, you certainly do an awful lot of work.
exactly. Yeah, your contributions really have been incredible. I sure as heck do not want to be chair again.
You want to think about that a little?
No, No, I've had a year to think about it, and, yeah, I do not want to be chair again, at least not at this time. But, and Alan, you're, I think, kind of new.
6 minutes?
Yeah, so, you know, if you're interested, but, so, I mean, I guess that basically, and I'm not trying to push anybody in any direction, that basically leaves Nathan and Kate. So, careful, do either of you have strong interest in being chair? I know you've been chair. You know, I think you're an excellent chair. You've been certainly an excellent mentor to me, as chair. I know, Kate, you've chaired numerous boards, and have been involved in a lot of things, so.
Well, if Kate would be vice chair, I'd certainly be willing to be chair, and as long as Kate is chair next year.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good plan.
All right. Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, you know, that's kind of what happened with me. I was vice chair, and you know, even though I chaired other committees, it really is helpful to see the stuff that goes on. I was probably less active a vice chair as I could have been, but you know, it certainly is a good opportunity to see kind of all the things that go on, because you know, there's the stuff that everybody sees, and then there's the stuff that people don't. You know, that's the stuff that really kills you and, and opens your eyes to things. So it sounds like chair, vice chair. So we can do that in a minute. And then there's clerk, which I don't know what. I still don't really know what the heck the clerk does.
I was a clerk all
Besides
last
it.
year, and I don't know what it does
You
either.
don't know what it does either.
It's a nice title.
Yeah, there you
It's
go.
the next step towards vice chair.
Oh, okay, so I don't want that either. Then. Yeah. I mean, I don't mind being clerk unless somebody else wants to be clerk. It's really, I think it's just Alan, do you want to be clerk?
I'm already clerk of the Board of Health, so it's.
Oh, so are you getting off the board?
I am
now?
gonna get off the Board of
Okay.
Health eventually.
All right, yeah, I did that. I was ConsCom for about 6 months after, and then,
Yeah, I was planning board.
yeah, and you were planning board, yeah. Yeah, you realize pretty quick, it
Yeah.
stinks to be on two.
Well, they often meet on the same night, that causes a problem.
Oh, yeah, or it doesn't, actually. Right? Yeah,
When they
'cause
offer you the same salary.
Yeah. All right, so would you want to be clerk? Was that a yes, or was that a?
I can be, I can go over to sign anyway, I guess I can sign these. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So simple enough, unless, Carrie, do you?
Not
No
from
burning, so-
1,000 miles away.
All right, okay. All right, so I guess should we vote on it?
Okay,
Yes,
well, I
okay.
move to nominate
Or should we just now?
Nathan Brown as
Yeah.
chair of the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
I move
Okay, I move, oh,
Reed be vice chair of the Board of Selectmen.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Good. And somebody want to make a motion for Alan to be clerk?
I move that Alan Lewis, as the clerk of the Board of Selectmen. Am I in the right line?
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? All right. So do you want to take this over, or you're going to let me finish out one last meeting?
Well, I'll let you, why don't you just finish out one last?
All
meeting?
right, good, thanks.
See what you could have had, Claude?
Yeah, right?
You could have been a contender.
Yeah,
Or the gavel from the stand.
yeah, exactly. All right, so look at that, 8 minutes ahead of schedule. So the conservation easement on Bingham Road, Bingham Road, which one was this?
This is one we had never
Yeah, is this
seen
one of them,
before
see?
yet.
Angie Bird, the chair of the conservation.
Okay, there's Sylvia.
She can help explain.
Oh, there she is. You want to come up? Or no?
You're on.
Hurry up! No.
We gotta keep on schedule.
You're
Come on,
right, I'm
Sylvia.
ahead of schedule, Sylvia, come on.
Timing is everything.
Yeah, that's good. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you all?
Good, good, thanks.
You got a newbie.
We do,
Yes.
we do.
Yes.
So we're here to discuss the conservation restriction for 48
It's
Bingham
a
Road.
conservation easement. It's
Or easement?
easement,
Okay.
yes.
Oh,
It's-
easement,
It's a little
easement.
different from a
Yep.
conservation restriction.
Right,
In that it hasn't gone through the state process.
right,
It's for a 40-foot strip of land that will sort of buffer the outer loop trail at Toll
yeah,
from construction that's happening on a piece of land that's been subdivided into 2 lots. And
Oh, okay.
currently, the existing house is way up on, close to Bingham Road.
Mhm.
Now, that owner has subdivided and is putting a house in the back.
Mhm.
And there's a stone wall and a trail not more than 30 feet from that stone wall. And the original plan had clearing right up to the stone wall.
Oh,
And we
really?
pushed it back by
Oh, good.
40 feet and
Uh-huh.
also added markers,
Yeah.
survey markers for along there, as well as on another strip of property line that's also with the toll. So hopefully there won't be any unintended clearing
Yeah.
of the toll conservation land.
Right, yeah,
So that part doesn't have a trail on it,
okay.
but,
So- Would you, I'm sorry, I couldn't tell because it was all black and white and incredibly small.
yes, yes.
We'll
Could
go
you
move
point
over.
out, like,
We'll
where
overcome.
is the conservation easement? Where's the property that's being developed and where's toll?
Okay,
Do I have the
this is toll here.
Keep going.
I think they're all copies.
Just in
So-
blue?
And so is
Just
this.
in blue?
This is all toll. This
I
is
think
the
I did
land
too.
that's being developed.
Okay.
Right here, this piece here, and the house currently sits down here. And it has been subdivided into 2 lots with a second one up in here. And originally there was clearing there, and the
Good.
trail goes around here, the outer loop trail, all down into here.
Okay, and so where's the conservation easement?
If you hand me the rest of that, I can show
There
you.
you go.
So there's going to be a small common driveway. The owner of the property originally had 2 driveways side by side, and they were just, like this far apart. So we got him to have a common driveway to get the snow plowing and salt and everything from possible vernal pools there. So here's oriented this way. So here's Bingham down here. The common driveway goes up to here, and then there's a crossing. The original house is here, the new house is here, the septic system is way up here.
Wow.
And it was originally cleared all the way back to the stone wall, and the trail comes right around like this. So the owner of the property agreed to put a conservation easement here on this area, and also there's some markings going to be along there. Don't really need it here because there's a stone wall, but along in here to keep, can you follow?
Yeah, got it.
So this conservation easement was put together with information that we had by town council as a, it's not a state approved, but because we own the adjacent property, it has the the value and the authority for that the state conservation restriction might have, so.
We have standing as butters.
Yes, yeah,
And-
and we don't really need to go traipsing all over it because we can see it
Yeah, right.
from the trail, from our own property. The one thing that there's an exception for is if in the future this house needs to have a new septic system and it can't possibly fit it in this area, then they can do some clearing up in here, but hopefully that won't happen. It's a 4-bedroom system, and I remember the engineer for this firm saying in the past that they had a problem on another piece of property that had a conservation restriction on it. They needed a new septic system, and they had all they could do to fit it in the spot. So when I talked to him originally about doing this, he said we'd really like to have some kind of an exception in case it's necessary to do that.
I did see that in there, there's something.
It's in the,
Yes, I
in
did.
the document.
Yeah, so that they could go in there for.
It would
sort of-
be like a last resort.
Right.
But not prohibited. So this was set up by town council, it's been signed by Dr. Stacy Scott, the owner, and it's been signed by the commission, and they recommend that the Board of Selectmen sign it and get recorded at the registry. And
So is this easement granted is just part of the getting the development done, or are there tax implications or anything like that to the town?
That would have to be checked on by an attorney, but this isn't, it's not in a way on the entire lot, so I don't know if it has any tax implications or not. It's not like it's a lot, it hasn't taken any value really away from the lot.
Mhm.
And Dr. Scott seemed quite agreeable to this. We were pleased that we
Yeah.
could get something like this.
Yeah, no, that is nice. That is nice, yeah. All right, does anybody have any additional questions?
Long way to go for septic for both of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wetlands.
Yeah.
A lot of, there was a filing early on that just was for the purpose of identifying the wetlands, because there was so much. And then, after that, then they had to design it around that.
You can see these, and a lot of steep, close
Yeah.
contours in various spots.
Yeah. And that's interesting, that's his channel? So is that actually wet, and then the septic?
Yeah, it's
Mm.
it's basically an intermittent stream, and
Right.
there's existing on the property, there's a little tool shed on the other side from the house.
Mhm.
And so there's been a lot of back and forth over the years. And so it's kind of degraded in
Mm.
that area. This one further back here, this one here,
Mhm.
is an outstandingly gorgeous stream.
Is it? Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
just beautiful back there.
yeah.
And there's if you've walked on Toll in the back, there's a lovely stream that goes in the back, and then it goes into a wetland, and then it comes back through to here and goes into another wetland back here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wetlands on
Yeah,
this property.
so then how are they doing that with the septic? Do they go under it, do they go in it, do they go over it?
They've got it worked out.
Yeah.
I mean, they damage it, obviously,
Yeah.
in order to construct it, and then they're supposed to reconstruct it, because they go through not only wetlands, but, bank resource area.
Right,
And that's all supposed to get reconstructed under the watchful eye of a wetland scientist, so that
Mhm.
and there's a planting plan for it, and.
yeah.
I believe they're gonna go over it.
Are they?
No, they have to bury the pipe underground, yeah.
So I know he came before the Board of Health.
Right, yeah.
Mm.
The fire chief is okay with it?
With the what?
It's a common driveway.
It's
Getting
to
in
here,
and-
yeah,
yeah.
it-
Oh,
just
yeah,
here,
well,
as
that-
far as I know.
You know, that's a planning board issue.
Yeah, this
Yeah, no,
went through
I asked
the
more out of
planning board.
curiosity, yeah.
I mean, it was, an achievement, getting that
Yeah.
turned into a common drive from
Yeah.
the two side-by-side, driveways
Yeah, I bet.
there.
I bet.
You have to have width and turnouts and
Right.
things like that,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
Well, I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve and execute the conservation easement as granted by Dr. Stacy Scott of 48 Bingham Road, Carlisle, Massachusetts, to the town of Carlisle in the care, custody, and control of its Conservation Commission pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 8C, a conservation easement over the area shown as proposed 40-foot wide restriction area, no disturb, on the plan titled Common Driveway Special Permit Plan for 48 Bingham Road in Carlisle, Massachusetts, dated October 23rd, 2017, revised December 14th, 2017, prepared by Stamsky and McNary, Inc.
Great. Is there a second? You know.
Second.
One sentence.
Yeah, I missed that, can you go? Yeah. Any further discussion? Anybody in the audience? No? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? Great.
I don't know who's this one.
It can be yours now.
You wanna- oh.
No, you're not getting a pen from Nathan. No.
Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Sylvie. All right, so we're a little ahead of schedule. Do we have, I never
So,
remember.
Then, can I just take a couple seconds?
God, here
You
we go.
gonna make this meeting longer?
Sure, yeah, you
Well,
can.
we're a few minutes ahead. I just want to officially welcome Alan.
Oh, yeah,
That would be
okay.
very
Quietly
nice.
sitting over next to
Yeah,
us.
that's right.
Welcome to the Board of Selectmen. It's very Very, very good that you have decided to join us, and we really appreciate it and look forward to working with you over the next 3 years.
It is a privilege.
you.
I mean that.
And come with a lot of experience on other Board of Health in particular, most recently. And you will be wanting to get off that quickly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
welcome.
Yes, welcome, yeah, good. That was nice, yeah. I should have done that in the beginning, but I'm rude, so.
You should.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm no longer gonna be chair. Yay. Okay, so I guess the Colonial Power thing is, I never remember his
some of
name. Is Mark, he's not coming tonight?
No,
Okay.
Mark Capadonna.
I think there's
We had
quite
a
a few
conference
people who
call
wanna
this
come for that,
afternoon,
though,
Mark.
Yeah.
so I would wait till
Bill
time.
and Bob were part of that.
Yeah, so I think, should we hold off until
Cemetery
7:30?
deeds.
Yeah, let's do cemetery
Okay.
deeds, and then we can start Tim's administrator's report.
Cemetery deeds.
I mean, it'll probably go longer than 10 minutes, but. 6?
It's at 6.
6, yeah.
6.
Yep.
Just keep things moving along. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to transfer land in the public burial ground to David Ives, 555 Heald Road, at Green Cemetery, Lot D 45, graves 1 and 2.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? Well, it's really nice to not have to do the roll call vote. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Not to mention, it's nice not to have the hiss of
yeah,
the.
right,
uh,
right, yeah. Of the waves in the background, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, very true, very true. All right, so Tim, if you wanna,
Sure, yeah,
Okay.
be glad to. First item, I had contacted you a week or so ago about the conservation, Carlisle Conservation Foundation's request to use the Conant property for their annual meeting on June the 10th. They wanted to advertise that right away, so the consensus seemed to be that I could grant them permission, and the board would take a vote to confirm that at this meeting, so
Yep.
got a suggested motion for
All right.
for that.
all right, did anybody, nobody had any?
I move that the Board of Selectmen grant permission to the Carlisle Conservation Foundation to hold their annual meeting on June 10th on the Conant property.
Second.
So I have a question. If he falls out of the tree and breaks his leg, who's liable?
Well, it's municipal property, it's town property, and we are covered for, you know, we insure the town's property, so that, I think, unless it would determine the town were negligent, actually, the standard, I think, is not only do we have to be negligent, but we have to act with malice for someone to be able to sue us, so it's kind of, we're
So
covered.
Carrie, don't go.
It's a high standard.
Yeah.
Stay out of the tree, Carrie.
And Nathan, don't throw rocks at him.
Right, so I think
Yeah.
we're safe if that, but we may want to ask for a certificate of insurance from
Yeah,
the fellows on the
sense.
climate, that's a good point.
all right.
Okay.
All right, so it's been moved? And
I'm sorry.
Did somebody, did you
Second.
second it?
Vote.
Okay.
Alan.
Oh, Alan seconded it, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? All right. Great, sorry.
Okay. Second item is purely informational. We've got a copy of the Inspector General's Guide to Board and Committee Membership. This is sort of the do's and don'ts as far as the state procurement office is concerned.
Alan, it's 700 pages long.
You have to have it done by next meeting.
Meeting.
Yeah.
The next time. And then moving on, I'd like to again request that the board approve a temporary change in operating hours for the summer to begin after Memorial Day and ending after Labor Day, whereby we would be open longer on Tuesdays and a shorter day on Fridays, closing at noon time. We did have better participation or activity last year, I think, because people, I think, got used to the notion that there was one day that we were open longer than the others. And historically, Fridays in the summer are pretty light, you know, staff takes vacations, people don't typically come in looking to do business, so, you know, with your concurrence, we'd adopt that schedule again for this summer.
Nobody complained or
Yeah, there
anything?
weren't
else?
No complaints.
Okay.
And we did get more customers, if you will, coming into boards on
Yeah.
for the evening hours.
Good.
Than the first year we tried it, that was a little, you know.
Yeah, first year's always a little,
Maybe.
yeah, yeah. And was it a different day the first year? Was it
Last
Thursday?
year was Thursday,
Yeah, okay,
which we did for the
Yeah.
purposes of the biweekly payroll, but
yeah.
we took a poll of department heads, and
Yep.
Tuesday was
Tuesday
the
was
runaway
better.
winner, yeah.
Was it? Oh, okay, yeah, oh, good, all right, so,
Even for the people doing payroll?
yeah,
They're gonna work out, their schedule. They like the idea of a half day on Friday too, so they're
Yeah.
gonna make it happen, yeah.
all right, that sounds good. So I take it nobody has any issues with that? All right, we don't have to vote on it, though, do we?
No, I'll just put it into effect.
I just wanna
Most
circle
everyone.
back to number 2, though. I actually read this stupid thing,
Yep.
and of all the documents that I've read, I thought this was maybe the least interesting or helpful of any of them. I mean, so go ahead and
Let's say
circulate
so.
it.
Well, then
but,
we'll just put it in this pile.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it just, I have no problem with you circulating it, but I just didn't find it a very helpful,
It's a little rigid, I think, yeah, in places,
Is it? Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Well, if anybody needs anything to get them to sleep tonight, then
No,
take that. No, it's not even that good?
not even that good.
Oh, God, yeah. All right, moving on to number 4.
Town council.
Number 4, talk to town council Tom Harrington about the next seminar that Mayors in Harrington will conduct here for town employees and residents. And we think adult use marijuana is probably a good topic. We did vote to extend the moratorium at town meeting. A number of communities are moving toward adopting bylaws, and
Yeah.
the law and the regulations are getting clearer, so I think it's certainly something I think we could all use some public education on what, what's permissible and what isn't. And, it's pretty clear that enacting a bylaw is a good step for a community, because in the absence of a bylaw, you can't really restrict or limit, not that I think that, Carlisle is gonna be a target particularly of
I was just in Rockport today, and they were having their town election, and they have 4 licenses on their warrant,
Do they really?
on their ballot
Wow.
today.
wow.
So, which made me think also that our planning board is writing the bylaw,
Mm.
right? And then who's gonna be doing the licensing?
Right.
So we need to probably have a joint meeting somewhere along the line to discuss that.
Joint meeting?
Well-
A joint meeting?
A joint, oh,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
no pun
And-
intended.
And no, Nathan, there will not be samples at this seminar, so, all right. Yeah, so that's fine, whenever,
So-
council wants to set that up,
Okay.
I think
We'll do
that'd be fine.
So that would be a daytime thing, an evening thing, or?
Usually the evening ones seem to work out better,
Uh-huh.
that board members can attend, and we've had them on public records,
Yeah.
Chapter 61, 61A, we had
Right.
pretty good turnout for that one, but I think this clearly is, eating up as a topic, so.
Yeah, yeah, all right, yeah,
And
no,
then I
that
just
sounds good.
show you what the meeting schedule would be if we stick with the second and fourth Tuesdays, and I know, people obviously can have vacation plans and so forth, so historically, we haven't met twice per month for June, July, and August, but if people know what they're gonna be doing, if you could, send Jen and I an email, we can kind of maybe make a recommendation for, canceling one of those or something.
I can't be here on the 12th of June.
Okay. Right. Yeah, and if anybody knows their plans or wants to think about their plans the next week or two, we can,
Yeah, see, so that's how he does it, he becomes chair and then he skips the next meeting. Yeah. Well played, well played. Yeah. I guess 2 meetings then, right?
You just do what Ken Grady always did for me whenever I wasn't there, he just canceled.
Cancel the meeting. That's even better, that's even smarter. All right,
okay, that concludes my report,
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
excellent, thank you. So we're close enough to 7:30, we can go with the Colonial Power. All right, so, last time we had, I've already forgotten his name.
Mark
I don't know why I have,
Capadonna from
yeah, that's him.
Colonial Power Group.
Right, so he was here the last time, we got that whole grid. We had a pretty good discussion, and there was some input from the community.
Mark met last week with the Energy Task Force, to talk about this, and
All right, didn't we get another thing, where'd the other thing go? I lost the other hand up.
Yeah,
That's
you should have
one.
a handout of that.
This was the one I printed out, but I've got another copy, so hang
Yeah.
on.
We can
Let me-
share.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I'll show it.
Here, here.
Oh, there it is. Oh, you probably took mine.
No, I did not.
okay,
That was
sure.
mine.
All right.
Want to get back to this?
Oh, yeah, you know, yeah, that's.
Yeah, I know, mine's probably buried in here somewhere. Mine's probably in there. I probably already threw it out. Yeah.
There, yes.
Already recycled it, yeah. Nope, no, I'm good, I'm
Okay,
good.
I
Yeah, no,
gave him
Kate gave me
mine.
hers, yeah. Oh, here it is, yeah, you're right.
Aha.
Yeah, there it is.
Aha.
Yeah, I'm not apologizing, though. Yeah. All right, so, so I guess, we looked at a few different things the last time. And, part of the conversation was, do we want to go 100% green, some green? The utilities apparently have to go, what is it, 22% green, right? Is it 26%? So, yeah, so that's the minimum. But looking at the pricing, it seemed like, there wasn't much of a difference between what we're paying now and going 100% green and,
That's not green.
and, even if we went with a portion of green, it was better pricing than what we're currently getting. But these numbers look a little different than what it was the last time, right?
Yeah, these are a little higher, I think.
Yeah, these are a little higher. Yeah,
The
because,
wind is still the cheapest of the green,
mhm,
but there's a much bigger gap between standard and wind.
Right.
If I'm remembering right, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
Total
keep
memory.
those numbers. That's too bad. I was looking at the terms, the term lengths a lot, and
Mhm.
I'm thinking it's looking very advantageous to do 36 months
right,
and lock it in so that we, first of all, we don't have to keep on revisiting it every couple of months.
right.
Yeah.
And then and it seems like a really good rate for the wind for the 30 or 36 months.
Right.
Compared to the standard rate. And people can still opt out if they
If they so choose,
Uh,
yeah.
so choose, so.
What is the cost, maybe somebody on Energy Task Force knows off the top of their head, if we did 36 months at 0.11545 cents, what's the average cost per family over 0.11448?
It's,
Are you asking for the difference?
point 001
Because
cent.
Yeah, well, he was basing that, on, I think, a Massachusetts average. The average household in Carlisle uses 11,400 kilowatt hours a year. If you're talking about a tenth of a penny, then you're talking about $11.40 a year.
I think we're talking about 1,000.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah, he's in between this and
Oh, that is a tenth of a penny, right? No, it's not.
no, it's 1,000.
It's just
Thousand.
1,000.
1,000.
1,000th,
Yeah.
yes.
Yep,
So that
So
would
we're
be-
talking $11 a year
right.
difference
To go 100% green.
to go 100% green,
Well.
yes.
And that's only for comparing to the 6-month avenue, the basic rate. Basic service rate is gonna go up or down every 6 months.
That's right.
This is locking it in straight for 3 years.
Right.
If we lock it in for 3 years, can we unlock it, or, I mean, is it,
Everybody can just opt out.
I know, everybody can opt out. So if the standard, but I'm just wondering if the town can also say, gee, the rate's got,
We're locked into that
we're locked in.
term.
That's our rate.
Individuals.
But
can-
the individuals can opt out if there were something that happened where the rate plummeted, they could opt out, and then, which
they're-
effectively would opt the whole town out.
Right,
basically.
but they're still locked in at 0.11448, right? Or they can opt out of the whole program.
No, they opt out to the,
The basic
of the
service.
program, and they get whatever the going rate is at
Right.
that time, as far as I understand.
They can opt into any supplier who's offering to the town. In other words, it could be a different supplier that's listed here, and they could go to them. So
Oh,
they don't just have to go to the basic rate.
oh, okay. So then,
Okay.
so wait a second. So say we went with Constellation, right, for 100% green, because they're offering that, they could also, or they would also be offering the standard? because, do you know what I mean? If,
At the moment, I think we were talking about, Tim, we were talking about maybe 3 or 4 options, what Bob was saying.
okay,
Right.
So the first option would be, at least the Energy Task Force would probably recommend would be is, the wind one.
Yep.
For 3 years. And that would be, hopefully, if you guys decide, it would be the default.
Yep.
Contract.
yep,
And then there would be a couple of others that would be, residents could opt into instead of that.
gotcha,
And
okay,
it could be, like the 50%, the bottom on your sheet, one, Rex one, and that's all New England type power,
Mhm.
Massachusetts type power.
Yeah,
Instead
that's
of
very
national
expensive.
Green power.
Mm.
That's, it's ironic, I mean, it's very expensive.
yeah,
I mean, this is one case where buying local, I'm not so sure is such
Yeah.
a, something that we need to do. And we don't get 100% green, we're only getting
Right.
50% more than, we already require to have 25%, so it's
Right.
not even like it's,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, so then how exactly would it work? We would select like a primary, like a number 1, and then select like a
Default.
secondary? Or a backup,
You
or
would select a default.
a default, yeah,
Supplier.
yeah,
And then.
oh, default supplier, okay,
Default to supplier, and then,
gotcha,
anyone who hadn't picked a supplier on their own would automatically be converted to that unless they opted out
gotcha,
when the letter goes out. And then, and any individual, any resident could opt out at any time, and they said it takes about 2-3 months to go to something else.
yeah. All right.
So the number in the upper right-hand corner,
Yeah, they 113.
that's our current basic service rate?
That's
No,
the
no.
rate
Projected.
expected for the next 6 months.
For if
Last
we,
6 months of
Starting
2018.
July 1st.
if we did nothing?
Utility, yeah.
Okay.
Current,
So-
the current rate is 12888.
That
Yeah,
would be a
that sounds
$22
good.
difference.
Yeah, so that's, that makes it a $16.87 difference,
Whatever.
except for the current rate's actually lower than this rate. What did you say?
No,
No, it's higher, yeah,
Oh,
the
it is.
current
It's gonna
rate's
go
higher.
down in the summer.
Okay.
Keep in mind too, that
Is
these
it?
are projected rates, we won't know the exact rate until Tuesday.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
it seems like, to Kate's point about if we can lock it in, like the two most favorable rates would be Constellation for 36 months, wind 100% green at 0.11545, and the next most attractive would be Public Power for 36 months at 11178. And the
But
the
that's,
prevailing wisdom is that very few people opt out. I mean, it just doesn't happen. And so I think we have the option of saying, should we just adopt the least costly one for the town and let anybody that wants to opt into green can do so? Or go with green because we like green, and let everybody opt out, which nobody probably will.
Right, we talked to Mark about that, and he came up with some figures, and I don't remember exactly what they were, but it's a very, very low percentage of anybody who opts out of basic.
Yeah,
It's about
And-
0.3%.
right,
And
that's my point.
the town has a huge, unique opportunity right now to, do better than what the energy committee ever did since we started on reducing pollution, carbon, whatever you want to call it. Doing very little expense to the community. And the community would also have the option of not doing it if they didn't want to.
right.
I think, to your point, if there were a huge difference, let's say even $150 difference a year, I would maybe be more, careful about it. But with the difference that we're talking about, I think we'll take our chances with people not opting out, and rather than the other way around, or rather than having people opt into the green. I think it's important for this town that, we get green. And this is a really good
Well,
way of doing
This
it.
isn't our biggest leverage point, though, either, for the town. I mean, we can say we're green by adopting this, but in terms of the actual carbon footprint that we have and the way we generate gases, this is not gonna help in that respect. for our town.
I disagree with you. I disagree with you.
It's, at the moment, 40% of our carbon footprint comes from transportation.
Yes.
We have about just over 3,000 cars, you know, in the town. This would actually be the equivalent of getting rid of 1,400 cars. Almost, well, between 30% and 50%, let's say 40, of our cars. So it will have a dramatic impact on our carbon footprint. Because we're getting rid of 50 up to 50% of 40%, which is 20%, or let's say 15, but that means we're reducing our carbon footprint by 15%. That's phenomenal.
Certainly
As I said,
significant.
We can't do this.
it is.
We
Yeah.
can't do this with green communities.
So that's a, you take the lowest, the lowest
Hold
structure.
on a second. You're not on the board anymore. I'll get to you in a minute now, Nathan.
So if you take the lowest one of point,
Oh, here's your break.
0.11178, over the lowest of wind power, that's almost a $42 increase per year at 11,400.
Say that again, it's how much?
If you, it's,
About
if you
42
take,
bucks.
if you take 11178.
Yeah,
And you
That's-
take the difference between that and the
that's 0.4.
11545,
Yeah, 0.004.
that's a $41.83 difference.
Okay, 4183. However, I would not be willing to pick a 1.11178 for 36 months, because that's no different than what we've got now, and I see absolutely no point in going to aggregated thing for that. Why would why would we as selectmen choose that?
Yep, because you're saying, because it's not a tremendous discount over what we have now.
What we have now.
And absolutely no benefit from an energy
And
standpoint.
so
no
no benefit
benefit
for
from-
energy, and no, basically no discount.
Right, because the discount would actually be half if you go based on what the projected rate is, right? So it'd be $21. It's just that's
Yeah.
that's 2/1000ths less than what.
And we don't know that this,
estimated.
that,
That's 2/1000ths more.
and we don't know that that price won't float down
Right.
during the summer and then up and down, you know, so that the average will be
Yeah,
either the same or more or less, we don't know,
Yeah.
but, I mean, I see
Yeah.
no point in doing it.
Yeah, so Tim, could you remind me what type of marketing does the company, the broker, do for us? Like, do they put something in the envelope, or?
Yeah, it was in the packet.
All the marketing, some of it was in the packet, some of the
Oh.
mailings that would go out to residents, and
Oh.
some of the promotional, I mean, they assist with all of that.
yeah, I mean, part of
Well,
it
we
too
do-
is, I'm
we do
assuming
send
the Energy
this.
Task Force would be willing to write an article for the mosquito, explaining. Yeah.
I didn't see something that would go.
Well, just, explaining that, the cost differences and, the whole car analogy. I mean, I think stuff like that really, would help people kind of get their head around this. But also too, sorry, Claude. But also too, just explaining it a bit more. Sorry.
So this would go out, this
Right,
this
yeah,
would go to the town?
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's the opt-out.
Yeah, resident, if they wanted to
All right, Claude.
opt out.
And then I,
Since Carlisle voted to become a green communities in 2011, and we set a baseline for 2009 and said we had a goal to go to 20% less just in the municipal aspect of things, which is a small fraction of what the town consumes. It took us up till now to achieve that, and hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants and the efforts of the Energy Task Force. So being able to chop 15% of all the residential and municipal together in one fell swoop
Yep.
is, by comparison, enormous.
Yep.
Although it is still only 15%, but it's
Yeah, Bob?
So just a couple points that Mark brought up on the call today. First of all, when we're comparing to the base basic rate, service rate from Eversource, it's apples and oranges, because that's only for the next 6 months.
Right.
And he expects that the Eversource rate will go up a lot substantially in the wintertime. So we have to be careful about that. The second important point is that these are indicative prices, they're not the exact prices, as Bill said. Those will come next Tuesday. The other thing that Mark said is that Public Power, which is offering the lowest rates for the standard service, had no bid on the indicative pricing. They probably will offer pricing once the final bids come in on Tuesday. And he thinks, he's guessing, based on his experience, that the differential you see, for example, with Constellation between the standard rate and the renewable rate, you'll see a similar differential between Public Power's standard rate and renewable rate. In other words, Public Power's renewable rate may well come in under Eversource's rate, and Eversource's rate will be going up in all likelihood after December.
Right. Right, so right now, when we agree to this, right, or if we agree to this, we don't have to choose the supplier.
No, we do.
Tonight we do?
No, not
No.
tonight.
No, but,
But
The type of supply.
right, yeah, so, but not the actual supplier. Okay, yeah, okay,
And then the term
right,
also would be most helpful.
yep,
it's a little hard to choose the type of supply when we see only the wind and the Class 2 recs. You know, personally, I'm not interested in the Class 1 recs. I don't think that's enough benefit. But between the wind and the Class 2 recs, it's hard for us to, we have no bids almost anywhere except for those very short-term ones. So it's hard to tell
Yeah.
which, but I mean, I guess I'm personally leaning towards the, 100% green product of wind,
with the wind.
with the wind.
I believe the Energy Task Force was also there.
Okay,
At least the members that were on the telecom.
okay.
Yeah.
And then, oh, sorry.
No, that's what I'm supportive of.
And then who and how, on Tuesday, when we get these numbers,
That's the second thing that you guys would probably need to do is to allocate one of you to sign a contract.
get my,
Or you could authorize
see
me
if
to
I'm
act,
available.
for the board. If
okay.
I know the board wants the longest term for the 100% renewable at the lowest rate.
I'm looking at the longest term mostly because it's also the lowest price. But if, when you get the numbers on Tuesday, if they're not the lowest price, then I don't want the longest term. I mean, I'm trying to, so I would like to be there if possible.
Yeah, but we have to,
If the board wants.
but we do have to lock in the term now, right? No, just
Right.
the source, okay.
And the Energy Task Force would be very willing to help out with this if you guys can do this. So we're looking forward.
Oh, no.
We have an experienced person that can help you.
So Constellation did provide, bids all the way down
Yeah.
the line, except for the Class 2.
Right.
Do they just not do those?
Mark said that he didn't know the reason some are no bids. He said that in some case, it may be they just didn't have the time or whatever to put in indicative pricing here. It is just a preliminary pricing. He was he mentioned Public Power specifically because they have the lowest standard rate, but he said he fully expected they will come in with a full suite of prices for the final pricing. And based on that, I would conclude that Hampshire Power and Constellation will do the same thing. They'll have an offering for all of these.
Yeah.
It's just a shame that we're making a decision based upon a lack of information.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
yeah, the only thing is if you look at,
Okay, I'm
the,
gonna get my-
4
I'm gonna get
numbers
my
that actually
calendar.
came in from Hampshire Power,
Oh, yours?
right?
Okay.
I mean, the Class 2 recs are all higher than standard, than wind, and then, the
But pretty
Class
much all
1
their
recs are.
pricing is higher.
Yeah, but I mean, if, but it's higher than
I wish we had.
the other, for Hampshire Power, it's higher than the other 2. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I mean, not by, there's that thousandth
Well,
of a penny again.
it's not higher than Constellation here.
No, I'm not comparing it to Constellation. I'm just
sorry.
comparing it to itself.
Oh,
So-
okay, sorry.
So the Class 2 recs for Hampshire are higher than the wind for Hampshire and higher than the standard for Hampshire, right?
Yes,
So,
which is what I was,
yeah, so I mean, odds are Class 2 recs are probably gonna be higher. And not necessarily significantly, but
you
But I
wonder
mean, what-
why.
what really is the difference between Class 2 recs and wind?
Oh,
I mean,
know what I'm doing.
Class 2 recs, is that where somebody else generates the power and they get the recs for it, or?
It has to do with when the power source was available. For
Yeah.
example, after 2010, I believe, they established Class 1 recs, which are basically New England-based power.
Mhm.
And in answer to the question around benefits to Class 1, it really has to do with boosting the clean energy economy in the state of Massachusetts.
Oh,
And some
okay.
of us are very interested in supporting that effort.
Mhm. Gotcha. Oh, okay.
So if we agree to go with wind, 100% green, and the other 2 or 3 suppliers come in with lower bids, we could take one of those.
Yes, it
Yes.
depends on what your motion is.
Right,
It's
but
down.
as
Oh.
of now, we could do that. We could authorize whoever's gonna sign on Tuesday to do that. Take whoever the lowest bid in that
Right.
class.
I would recommend that.
Yep, yep.
I agree.
Oh, we could actually put a couple of classes in there and tie it to the price. So for instance, we could, move that,
Yeah,
the lower, we,
Right.
either this one or that one, or the lower of the
36.
two, or,
Yeah.
Either the wind or the
430.
class 2 recs.
right.
yeah.
Yep, yeah.
Or set some threshold, say, as long as it's no more than this much above blah or whatever.
That's another way of doing
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, I think if we just did, this versus this, whichever one's lower, I think that's cleaner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think
No
in terms
problem.
of greenness, right, they're both 100%
Right.
green, so that we're not sacrificing
No,
that.
right.
And I would say that we have to talk about the term as well, because, let's say the 6-month, well, if the 6-month term was significantly less expensive, do we want to consider it? Or do we, because then we have to, every
have to
6
be a lot.
months, we have to,
Well, plus it might go up then.
Plus,
Right,
yes,
if it goes
yeah,
up, yeah.
so that's why when I saw the price for the 30 and the 36-month, I thought, oh, goody,
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta keep in mind too, that there's quite a few plants gonna be closing in the next 2 years.
Yeah, which will force the price up,
The capacity price is gonna go up.
yeah.
I don't know if the rate will go up with capacity.
Yeah, somebody showed us a graph at some point where some subsidy was going away and prices were, over the next few years?
You're also closing nuclear power plants.
Yeah.
And there'll be natural gas that has to be brought in at a higher
Right.
price to run those plants. So
Ah.
that's gonna drive prices up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, when you met earlier, was there a recommendation from the group of people who was there?
On the call?
Yeah. Or after the call, did you sit down and talk and?
I think we did it during the call.
During the
and
call.
With these numbers, the way they are right now, we recommended going with 100% green wind, a 36-month term under Constellation.
Okay.
And another choice being,
On the other two,
yeah,
I remember one was.
Well, I brought up, there'll be, obviously, there's one default option, and there will be one default product, and we recommended the 100% national wind, 100% green national wind.
through Constellation.
Well,
It's the only one there is at the moment.
Yeah, well,
Wind
it's
is a little bit, okay.
Lowest rate, yeah.
Then there'd be an option, obviously, for this standard low-cost product. I brought up the subject with Mark of having a second option or a third choice, if you will, and he was gonna look into seeing whether our plan allows for that. So if somebody wanted to opt into, for example, the Massachusetts Class 1 recs, that may be able to be offered. He wasn't sure, he couldn't confirm that on the call, he said he would check into that. So if you wanted to offer something that was local renewable energy as an option, I had suggested that, to see whether that's enough. So if that's something you want to do.
And he hasn't gotten back to you yet.
No.
Well, that was just
No.
today, in fairness to him, at 2 o'clock today, so.
Depends on how our plan was proposed and approved at the state.
I thought that we had 3 options.
I think I recall that too.
3
Yeah,
options.
Mike, he didn't have the plan in front of him, so he wanted to
Right, look at it.
talk to the Department of Energy to see if they could have the 3 options.
Well, that would be, a heck of an education for
Yeah.
people, you know, that you can opt to pay more because it's local and,
We'll do that.
okay,
And this,
all right.
and this thing here, that's coming from the town of Carlisle,
Yeah, that would be the,
is only an opt-out of the entire program. It's not a selection of your choices within the program.
There is some, on one of the letters, there's going to be a fill-in, a paragraph on each option and what the rates are.
Yeah, there's this,
It's about midterm, midway down or so.
the one with the table?
yeah,
Yeah, I think it needs to be a
Town
whole
of
lot,
Carlisle's community choice
a whole lot
card.
shorter than this one.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is great. I really only support it if there's really good community outreach to people who, you know, $42 might be a lot.
Right.
And, you know, I don't wanna choose to spend $42 of their money without it being very clear as to how they can get out of it.
Exactly, yep, I agree.
I agree. I think this letter, well, I didn't read it, to tell you the truth.
It's just
but-
way too much information.
Yep.
I mean,
It's like all the ones that I threw out that come
Yeah,
in the mail.
exactly,
It's all these alternate.
It just makes it hard to opt out.
Yeah.
Well, first of all,
It's all great information.
we should get rid of all this small CNI and medium and large I mean, what the heck is that?
I mean, what we could do is after, you know, there's gonna be a point in time when these come out, right? We can have a public information session, you know, and instead of trying, you know, get some print in the newspaper, but then ultimately, you know, when these things hit people's mailboxes, you know, have it be that, you know, a week after or so. I mean, I don't know how long you have, it must be in here somewhere, how long you have to opt out. Well, I know you can opt out at any time, but before it automatically kicks in, a couple of months maybe. And then we just have an informational session led by the Board of Selectmen and the Energy Task Force, yeah, to explain everything.
Article for mosquito.
Power us
Yeah, right.
volunteer to do that kind of thing as an education to the people in town.
Yeah,
We can arrange that.
yeah,
Keep in mind, there is restriction, the law is specific about what gets mailed out too, so you may not be able to cut out some of that other.
yeah, no, well, that's why, you know, I mean, if we can't
Yeah.
cut some of it out, then the best thing is to just invite people in that have questions and.
Well,
we
or you can
answer.
have a cover letter and say, you know, in the attached materials, but here, you know, here's a brief, the executive summary or
Here's what it
whatever.
means in English.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
I was just gonna say, as somebody who will be on the receiving end of that letter, you know, just sort of translating it in
Yeah.
an article in Mosquito, in a cover letter, I think would be terrific.
Yeah.
A cover letter, I think, would be very helpful to residents, so.
Yep.
I'm happy to work on that.
Well, I think it's disingenuous for us to suggest that people are gonna, the people that are gonna be most affected by a $40 a year increase are the people that aren't gonna be able to read and interpret how to opt out. I think it's our role to keep their costs as low as possible, and if everybody can opt in and get 15%, right? You know that's not gonna happen either. But I'm gonna be probably the only nay vote to go without a green product, but that's how I see it. I don't think we should be making those cost decisions for the whole town when anybody can individually opt in, and there's a tremendous amount of support. I will probably opt in, but I'd rather that be an individual decision than us make that cost decision for all of our citizens. Bill?
Yes,
no,
sorry. We've already talked with David on Council Aging on it, because we asked when we were doing a little research on what, how many families or residents would be affected
Well, they'll all be affected, but in terms
No.
of people who can ill afford $40
If-
more.
If you guys select the, you know, the wind, the green as the base default, if you will. And what we talked about was is that we would get together with David, Council Aging, and educate those people that would be impacted the most with maybe a $30 or $25 cost. That's kind of what we're planning.
For them to be able to opt out?
Yeah, so show them how, basically, and walk them through it.
Right, yeah.
Further on to that conversation we had with David was, he did say that many of them, the Council of Aging already help people by sending the money directly to the power companies.
Right.
And, they felt there was not, it was such a bit, because it was $10 a year for a maximum 20 families, they felt that they could cover that. It shouldn't be an issue for the whole town, because the Council of Aging can cover that extra.
And is there any guarantee that the pricing that's given for the aggregate program, if somebody opted out of the default program and wanted to go to one of those other companies, they might actually have a higher price as an individual than they would have in the aggregate pricing?
Correct.
So that low price may not be there for them if they opt out as an individual. Right.
But they can always go to the basic rate. and,
True,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
even during the winter time, the basic rate
It's gonna skyrocket,
but
yes.
Now it's gonna be coming down. So. And we're looking at it as a 3-year.
Yeah,
savings.
I really don't think it's a bad, I think on paper here, it looks like 4183, but I think ultimately it's gonna end up as a savings over the long haul.
That's what we feel.
Yeah.
Especially with global warming.
Yeah, well, but also too, if we put enough safeguards in place,
Yeah.
hopefully, the information will get to the people that would be impacted the most, so. All right, so, does somebody wanna try to craft a motion?
It'll be a hard
All
motion
right.
to make because we don't know if we can have 2 or 3.
No, well, you know what, it says, this letter has 3 things on it,
Yeah, and I think you're correct. yeah.
which makes me think that we do have 3.
Yeah.
Standard, optional green, and basic service. You see, the Carlisle program had 2 things, and then there's the standard service. So I'm going to assume that we have, can we make the motion assuming that we have 3? And do you want to have 2 motions?
But I think
One
that-
assuming we have 3 and one assuming we only have 2? And we use the appropriate motion.
I'll try to make a
Yeah.
motion that works. So I move that the Board of Selectmen adopt the aggregate power supply program to be decided finally on Tuesday. And that we select the lowest of the lowest priced green product at a 36-month term. The lowest price standard rate at a 36-month term. And if we can choose a second one, we choose the lowest priced local Class 1 recs at the lowest term.
At the lowest term? Sorry.
I'm sorry, at the lowest price term, at a 36-month term.
Okay.
But I'm gonna throw in there, unless the prices are significantly higher than what we're seeing here. I mean, if they come back, then I think we have to stop.
Yeah.
And that the default be a 100% green product, the lowest price.
All right.
Okay.
Do we want to define significantly, or leave that up to Tim's discretion?
I think 4183 is already at the outer bounds of what I would be willing to.
Mhm.
I'm not even willing on that one. I mean, if it's 1106, you know, but that's an entirely different thing, but,
Mhm.
so I guess, let's say it has to be within 10% of the pricing we're seeing now?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, though, they could opt out to that, so the 42 wouldn't, right? So that would be the second is the standard.
Excuse me, wait, that 4183 you're basing on a 6-month rate.
No, it's
Where-
based on the 36-month from Public Power, the 11178. And it's the difference
That's-
between,
11178 and 111545?
yeah, so, but it's the difference between the lowest possible rate that we could get and then the green,
Lowest
Okay.
possible rate.
lowest possible
Alright,
green rate.
okay.
At the
Right.
same term.
Right, at the same term.
Right.
Okay, I just want to be sure that I
Yeah.
remembered and understood.
Right,
what
but
that was.
ultimately, the basic service, which is, the estimated basic service is about halfway between that. So that 42 is really, if we didn't do anything, right, it's really 21, right, because it's halfway.
Yep.
Yeah, so,
But we are doing
but
something.
we are doing something, right.
So we have to
Right.
factor in the fact that we are doing.
No,
something.
exactly, so we could either
No,
reduce
we-
it by $21 or increase it by $21.
Actually, we're not doing something because we said we would stop, so we have to.
No, I'm just, no.
No, that's
from these numbers
based
right
on these
here.
numbers, yeah.
Based on,
Our other alternative would be that our default package was 11176, or whatever that last number is, 11178.
Yeah,
well, wait a second. If we do nothing, our rate is
right,
11397.
right,
For 6 months.
For 6 months.
right.
Right, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay,
I'm
so,
saying that we have we have 3 choices, we can pick 2 of these, but we have one choice, which is we default it to green
right,
if we decide to do this.
right.
And if the other choice is, if we decided to do this, the choice we would default it to 11178. And so
If you opt out, you go to 11178.
Mhm.
no, if you choose that as your package, you would go to
Right,
11178.
okay.
If you opt out, you go whatever the basic is.
That is the basic.
The difference between
No, the basic is
117
11397.
The difference between the 1178 and the 11545 is only $2 a month. I don't know.
Yeah,
$41.83 a year based upon 11,400. Or my iPhone doesn't calculate rate.
Okay. So if, let me just maybe I'm not understanding. If we, first of all, if we don't go aggregated, people are just playing the stock market with the,
Right.
with the thing. If we do, and we say that the default is the 100% green, and if you opt out of that, the standard rate
right.
is this one,
Yeah, we
okay,
go to that,
for the
yeah.
same,
11178.
right,
Exactly.
okay.
So our choice is, because I think we should do this,
Mhm.
our choice would be, is the default 11178 the lower rate, or is the default the 100% green? And our choosing a default of 100% green is on average going to cost households $41.83 a year,
Right, if they don't opt out,
if they don't have to.
but they can opt out, so it's not costing them anything if they opt out.
Yeah,
Is my math wrong?
Well, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I came thinking this was gonna start at 8, I guess I came in towards the end of the conversation. Is it possible for a resident to opt out of the program completely and continue to buy the power
Yes.
supply
Yep.
themselves?
yeah.
Because I've locked in a rate which is lower than any of the ones that you're talking about for 3 years. And I
Yes,
don't-
you can opt out and stay with who you currently have.
Well, if you've already chosen, then this doesn't affect you at all.
Well,
In other words, if you're not on basic service,
Oh,
you don't get switched.
oh,
Okay.
So you're saying if
Even easier.
Eversource already knows that I'm buying my power, I have my own contract to get power, then I will not be put in the aggregate?
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. This doesn't pull the rug out from under you in this, if you've chosen something other than the current default.
oh, okay.
And does this impact people at all who are currently have solar panels and are getting SRECs?
It doesn't affect
No.
the SRECs or any of that. It'll still work the same way it's working now. It just, the amount you get reimbursed is gonna be, you know, the energy price, whatever this contract is versus basic rate.
Yeah, I mean, if you have solar panels, you can't opt for the most expensive and then try to get reimbursed. Net metering,
Yeah, you're gonna start
you always-
making money.
You default
Yeah.
to,
Wife's gonna start.
you default to basic service for, your net metering
Reimbursement.
credits, no matter what.
But the SREC is completely.
So no matter what,
different.
you're paying Eversource for the power, and it's whatever their rate is that you're getting reimbursed. I mean, Eversource is paying you for the power.
Right, right.
Okay.
And just from a perspective standpoint, the $42 is $71,400 for the town, for all 1,700 households. Just saying.
But again, I just want to point out that Mark was very confident that the difference between the basic standard rate and this 100% renewable would be smaller than that, because you're comparing two different suppliers now.
Right.
He's very confident Public Power will be in the final bid with 100% green product, and that the differential will not be anywhere near the $41 that you're estimating right now.
Okay, yeah, we can just only go off this though.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's still important information
Yeah.
Right.
to have.
So when is this meeting on Tuesday?
It's, but I'm not sure, it may be just as it was today, they faxed us over the pricing, and then probably we do it by conference call again, I think.
Okay. And what time?
2 PM?
It's Tuesday, the 22nd.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm available.
I am too. Can you call me in?
Sure, yeah.
And
Yeah, or get a call-in number? Yep.
I'm getting my,
Actually, we're good. Can only take two.
Well, I get a call-in number, I can give you my call-in number. I can
But
give
then
you
it
my
would be
call-in
a,
number.
then it would be an open meeting.
Oh, that's right, yeah, okay, you guys can
Kate-
do it,
Kate and I
yeah,
can do it.
that's fine.
All right.
If that's okay with you guys.
yeah, sorry,
You're
yeah.
seeing it in real
Karen, if
time.
you want to take my place, you're welcome to.
Okay.
What time?
It's probably around 2, we think.
Yeah, I think so.
Wait a second.
So I'll expect you to call me.
Is the motion firm?
Yeah, so, did anybody wanna,
I don't
I'll second
remember
it.
it, but.
yeah, I think it was, well, I'm sure Jen's got it, right? Yeah. All right, did anybody have any questions on it, or did they have anything they wanted to?
But basically what this motion is doing, if I can amend the motion, to
Amend
state
your-
that this motion is giving the guidelines
Mhm.
for Kate and, it's gonna be you or me, Carrie?
I'm kind of compromised in terms of being able to get away right now.
Okay, so, it's, they're the parameters within which Kate and Nathan are authorized to make the decision on behalf of the board.
Sounds good to me. All right, is there a second?
Second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay?
Okay, abstaining, so it's 4-1.
No, I said aye.
4-1.
Oh.
Carrie was
Oh,
an aye.
no abstaining, you said, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I thought you said somebody abstaining.
No, no abstaining,
You thought,
no abstentions.
no abstentions, okay.
All right, great.
So
Okay.
we'll finalize it on, and then we, all right, move that we, because do we have to?
Oh,
Do
yeah.
we have to make it so that you can, sign on our behalf since we're not gonna be there?
Yeah.
I move that Tim is authorized to sign on our behalf pending the decisions by Nathan and Kate on Tuesday.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? So you'll agree to that. That's good, that's good. It's progress. All right, great.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, don't go just yet, though, because you're up again. Yeah, so the discussion of financial projections for solar projects.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you guys don't want to do it tonight.
Are you ready?
Which rates are you assuming?
Missing somebody.
They got a PowerPoint, but Bob's not here, right?
What time is it supposed to be?
8:30.
8:30.
Yeah, we're a
So,
little early.
We have a couple more things that
Yeah.
Tim wanted to go through.
Oh, yeah, no, that's,
You could also
You
give
do.
update on the Smart program.
You guys have been dying to do that. Let us get through our normal stuff, and then, I don't know if Wayne is watching, so we want to reach out to Wayne, so we can
Yeah, Wayne,
get him here a little early. Do you have Wayne's email?
his phone number.
You got one early.
Oh.
Wayne's? Oh, it's just a recap. Well, I guess, yeah. Okay,
We've done cemetery deeds.
so liaison reports?
Yeah.
Because you didn't have anything else for your town administrator.
I actually do.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay.
Well, first of all, the list of surplus IT equipment from the school department. I did talk to the school department, evidently the fire department asked to take a number of items from the list, so they've been transferred from the school to the fire department. Additionally, there was a resident who was interested in possibly, rehabbing some of these devices. Kate gave me his contact information, so I passed that along to the school department. Nevertheless, they need the board to vote to declare it all surplus so that they can ultimately dispose of it all. So I think I had that in the report last week, to declare everything on the list as surplus.
Still makes me nervous. I mean, a lot of those things just, have, as long as they're plugged in, work just fine.
Yeah.
So I'm worried about, declaring it surplus and,
See the list
you
you
know.
have?
it's-
Yeah, well, and also too, if there's information stored on it. I mean,
Well,
I
they-
don't
they
know.
wipe 'em all.
Do they?
Oh, yeah, that's not the problem. The problem is
Well, yeah, but I mean, they.
that, there's probably a bunch of elderly people who would love to have, a laptop that they don't care, they keep it plugged in, they don't need the battery.
Yeah,
The ones that jump out at me are the ones, the desktops from June 21st of 2014 on. All the other ones are pretty old.
Yep.
Those potentially could be,
Those are all apples.
yeah, they're all IMAX. It's nice that they're IMAX because they have the big monitors. This is the first time I've seen one of these where the equipment wasn't just really ancient
Yeah.
Yeah, or broken.
or broken.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
now,
but some
now
of them
they're
are broken.
clearly, in this one, they're clearly getting rid of things that just, they don't use that type of thing anymore.
Make room for the new stuff
Y-
to
y-
buy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can ask them to scrub the list again, if that, maybe separate out the ones that appear to be.
Well, it's more of a, have they reached out and found out if any other department
Yeah.
can use these?
It
And
did, and the fire department was the only department that requested.
and what
some of
can
it.
we do with these things? I mean, can we give them away?
If they're declared surplus, the school can then determine,
I mean,
they could.
I
give
may
them
have missed
away,
this at the
throw them
very
away, or-
beginning, but can the Council on Aging offer them to people? Because then who's gonna set them up for them? And
Well, this
Bill.
person that, no, it's, the person, they already have a person who does that.
That's the individual.
That's the individual I gave.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that person could maybe.
He actually personally buys parts for the elderly people and fixes their.
And did we ask him if
Antique.
he wanted these?
I asked him if he'd be interested in looking at that list, and he said if it was just batteries, he was very interested.
Yeah.
He knew a lot of people who
So we put him in touch
would be
with
very
Susan
happy to have
Brandon.
one that they could just
Okay.
plug
Yeah,
in
so
and.
we'd wanna
and-
focus on them going to, first to people in Carlisle.
Yeah, well, that's
Right,
where they would be
exactly,
going, this is COA.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of stuff on here isn't really worth anything, but.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
some of them are the cameras that, they used to use for science projects, and they don't have much,
Right.
There were some projectors in there, though.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't look at it carefully, but.
His iTouches probably don't get updates anymore. I think it's the iMacs that are the most interesting.
Yeah.
And the others are 9 years old.
Yeah.
But if he wants to look at this list,
Yeah.
want to bring that list back after this.
Well, I would
He's
just,
had a chance
I
to
would
go
just like
through it
them
and see if he can-
to get in touch with him. I don't know if they did or not. I don't think they did.
What, I don't know, I gave
Yeah.
his contact info to, I'll follow up with Susan and see if he's had a chance to look at the list and if there's anything on there he'd like to
Is
work
David
on.
Yeah.
involved in it?
What's that?
Was David involved in this discussion?
No, not directly, I think I
Maybe pull David in.
Okay.
Maybe he can help make it happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And I'm gonna be surprised if they want anything other than those desktops at the end, but,
Yeah, but there's a bunch of them.
yeah, there's a lot of them.
Well, there's a lot of laptops,
There's a lot
actually.
of 20 of them. All the laptops are pretty old.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, but,
But either way,
They
yeah.
may
You
not,
know,
they may not run the new operating system.
yeah, but for
But
somebody who's
Zymax, I
just,
think,
yeah.
will.
Yeah.
Well, either way, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like there's a way to make
He
this
knows how
happen.
to refurbish
Right.
them, and he knows how to go back to the old.
So we're punting it down the road again, Tim.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, but you know, we gotta do what's right for
See how
Carlisle.
cheap we are? We wanna reuse everything.
Yeah. Reduce, reuse, recycle.
We're green, we're
Yeah,
green.
very good, yeah. And then lastly, I sent you this afternoon, copy of proclamation for Race Amity Day that,
Oh,
I
yeah.
requested of the board. It's, an observance of, cultural, ethnic diversity. It's, was passed in 2015, signed by Governor Baker, and it's the second, Sunday in June every year. This is the first year the board's been asked to issue a proclamation, to declare, Sunday, June 11th, 2018 is Race Amity Day in the town of Carlisle. And we, if you so vote, we have an original proclamation, for you.
I move the board declare the 11th day of June 2018 as Race Amity Day in the town of Carlisle, Massachusetts.
Second.
Any further discussion? I just have, why do we have to do this if the state's already done it?
It, requested of the board, there's some local people that are putting together, some events on that day. I think they wanted to.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have no issue with it, I'm just curious as to, I mean, it seems kind of redundant, but, okay.
To me, it's a
Like
little
you-
bit like Mother's Day. I think, we should be doing this every day, not just June 11th, but,
Yeah.
okay.
No cost action.
All right, so any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? We got it, it's got Claude on it.
Oh, yeah. Does the
Got the wrong-
official one,
The official, no, mine has an updated list.
oh, look at
Very
that.
good. All right.
Oh, yeah,
Is that one
the
is-
original, yeah.
Oh, you're here. Yeah, were you doing the presentation? No. Oh, you are, good, okay, yeah. We're a little early, so yeah.
But that's probably not a big deal.
Right, do you wanna, we can go on to the presentation.
We can do.
Sure. Yeah, well, let's do the minutes and then we'll move
We're
on.
still gonna have a
Oh,
problem.
we voted on it, did we? Anybody want to sign, or we can sign it out?
Okay. We have a couple of things we have to sign, so we'll do them all at the same time. Yeah.
All right, so we got a couple sets of minutes here, right?
All right, minutes.
So, April 10th,
I sent some edits in, and I don't know, but they were nothing,
Yes, no,
yes.
yeah.
right,
So I move the minutes of Tuesday, April 10th be approved as amended, I guess.
Second?
all right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining?
Abstain.
Oh, you're one of those.
That's right,
huh?
yeah. That's a stickler for
Yeah. No, it's just, it's smart, yeah. All right, and then the 24th.
Okay, I also sent some edits for that, but the one that I want to mention is that under the Board of Registrars, where we accepted the letter of resignation from Sally Zielinski with gratitude, and I just want to remind the board that we should accept resignations of people with gratitude for their service, because otherwise it sounds like we're just really grateful that they're resigning.
Resigning? Well, in some cases, we may be. And that's not the case with Sally, but yeah,
So I changed that in our
Yeah.
minutes.
Okay, that's highlighted on mine.
yeah, yeah. Makes sense.
That's a good point,
Like
Kate.
the recommendation we used to say is, you'll be lucky if this person works for you.
Yeah. So, I move that we approve the minutes of Tuesday, April 24th as amended.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining?
Abstain?
All right. And then, April 30th, so the one for town, before town meeting.
Oh, that's right, I
Yeah.
did. I didn't have any edits on that one, I don't think. So I move acceptance of the minutes of April 30th as presented.
Second?
Yeah, did we actually adjourn the meeting?
Yes, we did.
We did? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
Yes,
to
because
go
we
into
said-
town meeting?
It was pointed out by Tom that
Yeah,
it's still
I-
fine for us to vote and everything during town meeting.
Okay,
That
yeah, no, I couldn't
town meeting
remember.
was an
Yeah,
open
no.
meeting,
All right,
yes.
okay, because, yeah, I couldn't remember if we had to adjourn or not, so.
Yeah.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? Yep. We're almost at 8:30. Oh, look at that, the next thing is adjournment. Well, so, all right, we can start, we can go with the 8:30.
Yeah, we're gonna get way over
Energy
here.
Task Force, yeah.
Okay, we need a couple minutes to set up there.
Oh, so we need to go over this account.
Can we adjourn to the
Yep.
audience?
Yep.
Great. Oh, that's a good idea.
Yes. Sign away. That looks like a lot of money. Yeah. Ooh.
I can't waste a second.
You need the screen down?
I do, thank you, Larry, great. Sign that one.
I think it's just that. Over the water takes like. Oh, no, there are phones around. That would be the basic cover.
What are we doing, Tim?
Okay.
Well, I may have. Tim, do you need copies? I may
Work your way down
or
if you
not.
want.
I did make copies of that. The board has it in their packet.
They have it. Oh,
They
okay.
do.
All right. Okay, we good to go? Bob Clark, representing the Energy Task Force, and purpose tonight is really to update about possible municipal solar project in terms of status and next steps. Try to be relatively brief on this. Next slide was, these are the original goals of the project. Stated, provide positive cash flow for Carlisle, reduce our carbon footprint, help us meet our green community energy reduction goals, and provide a community solar opportunity for Carlisle residents. So I'm going to update on a few components of it. One is the whole incentive program. When we first started, it was kind of an unknown in terms of what the amounts would be and so on. So the start of the program has been delayed, just really more administrative procedures and approvals with the DPU and the various steps. Right now, it's projected to start in August, meaning that would be the first time that they would actually take applications for the program. Now, they did some bidding to establish the rates, the base rates, and NSTAR or Eversource, so the Eastern Mass Eversource had the highest rate. Basically, there was only one bidder for the entire program from NSTAR as compared to National Grid and Western Mass Electric. As comparison, National Grid starts at 15 cents and Western Mass Electric is more like 14 cents. Basically, and the feeling is the scarcity of land in Eastern Mass prevented a lot of companies focusing on putting solar farms on that property. So that's sort of an advantage for Carlisle, is so there's the least demand due to the scarcity of land, and also the program will fill up slower, because again, National Grid will probably be half full within 3 to 6 months in terms of large projects. Okay. Qualifying for the SMART program, you need 2 items. You need an interconnection service agreement, which is something you have to apply to from the utility. That probably takes 6 months, that whole process for a system of this size. And then you need all local approvals, excluding building permits. That would mean any conservation planning board approvals would have to be complete as well. So it takes some time before you can even apply for a system. Update on possible sites. We had talked about, I think we had 4 sites the last time we kind of formally met. Bill and I met with the school board. A lot of resistance really to the Banna Davis site, basically on kind of the lack of an overall plan for Banna Davis, even if we just took a portion of it. So we essentially eliminated that from consideration. They were open to the land between Spalding and the school. They were open to parking canopies, but they were not, you know, they're not, it wasn't an approval. There's got to be a whole process and people getting comfortable as well. But they were certainly open to it and positive about those 2 sites. So we focused down to the school site and the solar overlay district, the transfer station. And that's just, we did show these before, but that's a potential layout using those 2 properties at the school, and obviously heavily wooded, so that would have to come down, and that the southern part of that is about 50 feet from the property line to the south, because the church property line goes actually that close. And then the the solar overlay district is the next one. We'll see what companies come back with that. If we have concerns is that there's intermittent stream going through the middle of it there, and also a lot of large boulders and ledge as well. So what we did is, so 2 options really. One would be a ground lease, which means Carlisle would sign a lease agreement, 20 years or more, buy solar electricity at a discount, and receive lease payments from a third party, and also receive payment in lieu of taxes for it would be a personal property tax. A solar system is considered a personal property, and we were able to tax that. Usually the town negotiates an agreement for a certain amount for those, and there's a lot of precedents in other towns that we can look at to kind of come up with the right figures for those, so we know what the range is those. In this case, the provider owns the system. They take all the tax credits, they take the depreciation, they take the incentives, and we get a fixed lease payment every year, plus the taxes. Option 2 we talked about was Carlisle owning the system. In this case, we get all the incentives, all the energy credits, but would not be able to use the federal tax credit, depreciation tax benefit. Positive side is any revenue stream would not be taxed as well, but that would go on our land. We'd have to maintain the system, and that's that option. So what we did is, so we developed 2 separate requests for proposals, because that's what we had talked about with the selectmen, and trying to get basically price information that we'd be able to make some kind of evaluation and decision process on that. So in working with town council, so that started, it was around February 1st, and it probably back and forth with town council about 6 weeks. So it takes a while, I guess. Basically determined that we cannot do an RFP for our own system as a 2 things. As a design build, we can't design build it like we had hoped to do and just get proposals and pick the best option. And number 2, we can't actually then decide not to do the project. In other words, if we come out to bid for a project, we cannot not do the project unless, for instance, the town, a good reason that the town didn't vote for the money, say at a town meeting. That would be an acceptable reason, but to say we have a better option, right, we'd rather lease, it's not really an option. So that became pretty problematic. from that standpoint. The lease as written was okay. They had minor changes to that. But they would need to have to expand the option, but they don't expand the lease language, but they have no problem. They think that's kind of a minor thing. So they basically said we need to decide up front which option we were going to pursue, is basically what they said. And this is kind of my own experience in terms of I've been involved in a couple projects that got lease bids in National Grid territory, so trying to correlate what N-Star would be, and also knowing what the ownership price was. And so this is kind of quick summary of the current numbers, what I think they would be for an owned system or a lease system. So, and one of the reasons leasing is, looking better, another reason is the tax laws have changed since last year. So a solar project now can be 100%. It used to be a accelerated depreciation, 5 years, and that was phasing out. Well, the new tax bill, it can be 100% depreciated on the federal level in year 1. So that really improved the situation for a third-party ownership as well. So the task force looked at these numbers and other things in detail, and based on that and the possible problems of ownership and risks of ownership, and upfront expenditures we would have to even get to an ownership, we're recommending pursuing a leasing option at this point. And you can see, actually, if we can go back to that 1 second, is the 10 years ownership looks good, but 20 years leasing is better, and part of that is ownership. You have to basically, we carry replacing all the inverters at year 15, so you have a kind of a big capital expense that kind of cuts down the cash flow. Yep.
How do we lease the land that's school property? That's actually the school parking lot.
Right. Well, I'm counting on town council to get the correct way to do that. It's certainly, it's done a lot, I guess. School lease it. Yeah, yeah, anybody who works there would have to get Corey, even the construction people. That's a pretty typical situation. So, I mean, that's a whole, in any case, whether it was owned or leased, there is going to have to be a discussion in terms of how any cash flow would be divided up and managed. One thing that's pretty clean on this would actually be, you could say, okay, if it's the school's land and they're leasing it, well, they get those, they take those economics, but the payment in lieu of taxes goes to the town. So it kind of separates, that might be one way of doing it. So that all the town is taxing, in other words, the town is taxing that personal property 100%. The school's got nothing to do with that tax event. But the other piece of it, so there's a lease of town land. Well, that's really it. It's just a lease, right? School land, in that case. So does that make sense? I will say, nothing we would be doing here is unique or hasn't been done a number of times throughout the state. So that's kind of the good thing, and being done elsewhere as part of this program. So I think we won't be out in front of these kind of issues. So, so we wanted to touch base before we took this kind of next step. We're recommending proceeding with lease proposals. If we get the approval, the next step would have the town council review an actual lease to go with the RFP. to go out, and then basically take the summer to get those, probably if we go out with June, probably give people 30 days, July, and do our, energy task force evaluations to kind of bring them to the selectmen and other groups that need to be, obviously the school board, et cetera, that has to be involved with this. So when I say proposal presentation, maybe that's recommendation of, presentation of proposals, recommendations for next steps. We can go.
So the target construction of summer of next year, if it's at the school?
Yes. Yeah. That would be the target. So there would be advantages to having it approved. Obviously, this needs to be approved at a town meeting. Two things need to be approved, probably the actual project itself, plus the pilot would have to be approved at town meeting. Usually those pilots are negotiated by the selectmen, but it's approved at town meeting. So there'd be advantage to doing that sometime in the fall because of the time required for the interconnection application and permitting. And it ultimately affects the numbers in a way, because if the way the smart incentive works, they've divided up these to install essentially 720 megawatts of solar that they're providing incentives for. 25 to 30% of that is going to be small projects. So there's 75% of projects is going to go over time. As soon as they finish 1/8 of the block, they're going to go to the next block, and then the incentive for that block is going to be 4% less than the previous block. Over time, we don't know how fast NSTAR will fill up, but it's an incentive to move in a reasonable fashion. Understanding, I think we all understand that this has got to be discussed, evaluated. It's going to take time to go through that process. We understand. That's kind of really.
Have you talked about this with the school committee? As a lease project?
Initially, everyone we've talked about, finally, we went to the finance committee, went to school. We've gone through sort of the same presentation we went through the basis of that. I don't know that they have a preference. I'm sure their preference would be whatever works out financially.
Why would anyone want to own these numbers?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, again, I thought in particular with the new SMART program, in the SREC program, nobody wanted to do it. And part of the reason was the incentives were market-based, highly variable, could go up and down. So investors were discounting the value of those incentives because they didn't know what the final value was. Incentives in this program are 20 years, fixed, paid by the utility, guaranteed right up front.
Either way, though, right?
What's that?
Either way, owned or leased.
Owned or leased, correct. Reason to control the system, and again, tax laws make it even harder to do an owned system. That was a big change. They were talking about that accelerated depreciation, not going with it. There was a 100% write-off you could take the first year, and that was going to go away. A year ago, that was going to go away from January 1st, and now they went to you could expense 100% of the system in year one. So that made a big difference in terms of that aspect. So.
In terms of the leasing, I can understand, leasing on the side of the hill and fence it off. It's kind of, what worries me is leasing the parking lot where you're still maintaining rights to use it.
Yeah.
And the conflicts that might crop up there. That would be my concern.
It's a good concern.
what I'm just saying.
Sudbury, they don't own, Lincoln Sudbury doesn't own the system over their parking lots.
Oh, do they have one? What's
Yes, they have very large, they have a very large,
Very big,
very
okay.
extensive. And so,
So is it like a big carport? I mean,
yes,
yeah.
it's a big carport. It's a
Yeah.
big
No
carport.
plowing.
With no plowing? Okay, well, maybe
Yeah.
they save some money in that.
Yeah.
But when it's used-
The third-party company has the right to access their system, to
Right,
service it.
okay.
And the school has the right to plow, park cars and so on. So there's an agreement that
Okay, so
defines
they just brought that.
exactly how that works, but it's a really good question.
Right.
So that's really, that's a,
Yeah. That's the last slide.
yep. So we're just kind of asking if you're comfortable with us taking the next steps and soliciting.
Are we locking into?
No, the lease, we're not locked
The
in.
lease, we can.
We're not locked in.
Decide
So
on
that's,
it.
yeah.
Right, I'm not,
Ownership.
right.
Ownership, we would be locked in as a construction project. So at least we're not locked in. And we may find, you know, that it doesn't come through. I mean, one thing is, you know, a lot of these sites, you're taking down a lot of trees. That is a cost that a number of the projects don't have. But we're kind of what we're banking on is there's not that many round-bound projects in the eastern Mass area. So that's kind of the benefits that we have going for us. And in a way, it takes off some of the time pressure, too.
So if we say we're comfortable with it, now you have to then go to the school because they're the ones that are going to do the lease and they have to be, they're the final kind of
Right, but we haven't,
deciders, right?
in a way, we're not changing what we presented to them before. Because that's, maybe said we would look at both options. And we've said to them, we said, there's nothing is proceeding without their total buy-in and approval, basically. It's just really, it's just hard to make, a lot of times towns go out to bid on these leases or so on, so, and usually they go through, but, you know, it's just, sometimes they don't. A lot of these, I've seen a lot of leases for, on the SMART program already, in Central Mass, nothing here. But they're gonna come here next because right now all the developers are typically at the easy properties, which are in Central and Western Mass because they're farms or they're cleared already, or they're large axes. But, and the other aspect that we have here in Carlisle is because there's very little solar in Carlisle, Bedford, Acton, power lines run right through Carlisle. Bedford, Acton, Carlisle, all connected by two large, thick power lines, which really means that there's a lot of power capacity. In Central Mass, they can't, some projects they can't even do because there's so many projects. And some projects are so over capacity in terms of what's on the substation that they're getting charged millions of dollars to upgrade the substation. So again, the advantage here will be we have a clear substation, there's not much going on from the solar standpoint. So I think it'll be interesting to find out, and it's really, we talked about it for a long time, but I just want to get the numbers that we have firm companies that are willing to provide firm numbers. Decide if it's all worth it. Excellent. Good. Great. I think it's okay.
Okay, do we need a motion? Do we need a motion or?
No,
Or they just need a general
Yeah,
sense?
Yeah.
Jim, do we need a motion if we have to put on our?
No.
I'm for it.
That's progress, progress is fun.
Go.
Sorry. Don't get used to it.
No, I don't.
All right, now we are way ahead of schedule.
Yeah, we
Look
can
at
go
that.
home.
What we're gonna do is
Call
wait.
Wayne up and, or
Yeah.
just stand him up, go home
I'm
anyway.
gonna read your texts as they come through.
Okay.
That's public,
Done?
public document.
Okay.
Done that?
All right, so since we have an abundance of spare time, do you guys want to update us on the Heat Smart program? Yeah. But don't ask again.
Keep it under 25 minutes.
That'll be very
Yeah.
quick, it'll be very quick. Bob Zog, 923 North Road, also the Heat Smart coach for Carlisle. You know, things are in general going quite well, especially for ground source heat pumps. We, as I mentioned, I think I mentioned the last time I was here, federal government reinstated the federal tax credit for ground source heat pumps, 30% federal tax credit. We also have a good installer for ground source heat pumps who's been conscientious. So want to draw your attention to the last two columns on this table, which show the number of signed contracts versus the goals. The number on the left side is the total for the three towns of Carlisle, Concord, and Lincoln. Number on the right is Carlisle. And you can see for the ground source heat pumps, we've already exceeded our goal in terms of signed contracts. We have 11, and our goal was 9 for the 3 communities, and 5 of those are in Carlisle.
Wow.
So that's the terrific news. Our installer thinks we can easily get 15 before the end of the program. So air source heat pumps have been slower than expected. We really, we're only got 7 signed contracts, and none of them are in Carlisle right now. We've done some survey work. We're trying to decipher that. We just spoke with Bolton Harvard, also has a Heat Smart team as well. There's 2 communities, and they're having a similar experience. They have a different installer, and they're seeing similar patterns. So we're trying to sort that all out. And the modern wood heating systems, for reasons we don't know, have just gone nowhere. We've got 1 signed contract, and we don't have an explanation on that one. We just, so those are the stats.
Well,
The
you have to go and buy the wood and put it in, and
well, but you don't. You see, the beauty of this system is it's hands-off. You get pellets delivered, they're pneumatically put into a storage tank, they're pneumatically delivered to your boiler.
But people may not know that. They
People may
might
not
think that
think
this,
that.
this is the typical, you know, you have to,
She's
Yeah.
like shoveling coal, right?
yeah.
We don't know the reason. There's a lot of
Okay.
bad press about pellets in general, even though you can buy sustainably harvested pellets. There are some very credible organizations that are dissing pellets that are being now shipped over to Europe, and Europe considers them to be carbon neutral, which is actually not true. Any case. So, not to belabor that, moving ahead, we just had our 4th Meet the Installer event on the 7th of May. Had about 44 people in Concord, which is pretty good for the 4th event. We've got 2 open houses scheduled this weekend. For privacy reasons, we had to request RSVPs on those, and those have been slow in coming, but we still have some outreach to do this week through social media. Hopefully we'll get some people there. And as you probably noticed, the wonderful banner flying.
Banner's there.
Thank you.
Banner's up, yeah.
And that's basically it for now, unless you have any questions.
I don't have any.
Good.
Well, the 11.5 is good.
Yeah, it's real good.
Yeah, that's great news.
Yeah.
Is that all new construction or?
As far as I know, these are all retrofits to existing homes.
That's really amazing, because ground source, I mean, that's a lot of disruption of your land.
Yep.
And when we were first talking about it, you were saying, oh, you didn't think that, you know, people were gonna be going for that. You thought we were gonna do the air, because that's just a little unit, which is on the side, but.
I have been proven incorrect here.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. This is not bad news, because the environmental benefit of the ground source heat pump is, of course, better.
Well, it may be that people in this climate still are not trusting the newer tech, because
Yeah.
frankly, heat pumps were not a spectacular success, the old ones, and people may not be sanguine about the new ones, and they would rather do the.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great,
Thank you very
great,
much.
thanks, bud. Okay. We'll only have one thing left.
Next one. He just came on his own.
Nothing in the booklet, no.
For this topic.
No, there's nothing in for the town meeting recap. All right, so Wayne, we are way ahead of schedule, surprisingly enough. Yeah, which is good. So were you watching? Because we made a request. Unless somebody texted you or emailed you. So,
I was wondering.
yeah.
Just,
So it's your fault we're at 9:15. Oh,
Thank you
Okay.
for accommodating
Yeah.
my schedule.
our pleasure, our pleasure.
He always
and we're
works it
glad
so
that
well.
you got
Yeah.
out of whatever it was you were doing a
Yeah.
little earlier, because we're ready to go home.
Yeah,
More
exactly.
fun than talking.
Yeah, so basically, we just wanted to have a general recap of town meeting, get your take on things, anything that the board, could look to improve on. And then, I just want to have a general discussion within the board about some of the things that happened, ways to move forward and stuff like that. So, what'd you think?
Well, I'm always happy when we can get home in one night.
Mhm.
So that was, that was good.
Yeah.
I think things went reasonably well. The thing that most surprised me in a very positive way was that even on the two articles where we had a lot of discussion, there was almost no repetition. People were coming up with new arguments, different angles, and so forth. And I think that's a testament to the quality of first the people who brought the issues and sort of frame them up. Agree or disagree on the dog bylaw, agree or disagree on what the housing authority was trying to do. In both cases, they put a lot of thought into it, got the issues out in front of the public before town meeting, and so people were then able to come in and have a more informed debate. And so, so thanks to the people who put that effort in, and also thanks to the citizens who came prepared to talk about things. So that probably was my number one takeaway that I was very, very happy about. And I think by and large, I think things went fairly smoothly. So I didn't have any big shocks. One thing that I learned, not at the meeting, but last week I attended another town's meeting, and I will let them remain nameless. Actually, they did. It's a moderator that I know, and fairly good job, but. A couple of things that I noted that you always wonder, are we doing things the right way and so forth. So a couple of things that were notable is, first of all, our finance committee over the last couple of years, I don't know how much you all pay attention to it, but they kind of use the same template and go over the same topics. They vary, they highlight or diminish certain things based on what's happening over the year. But they actually have a pretty good formula that really covers things very comprehensively. And I think that they've figured out a way to present things in charts and so forth. I thought, this other finance committee, they didn't do a bad job, but I thought, wow, Carlisle, very good job, So it's not only Scott, but he's building on what his predecessors have done in the rest of the committee. So I think our FinCom really does a nice job as well. So that was a big thing. A second thing that I've always kind of wondered about. A couple of years ago, I asked FinCom to pay more attention to the school budget. And I said, I will give you more time. Please go into more detail about the school budget because it's such a large component. And I thought that, you know, they'd come out of a suggestion on the floor of town meeting. And I thought it made sense, you know, as a citizen, I said, I want to know more. So, you know, maybe other people do. I've always wondered, I know in other towns, they often will turn it over to the school administration.
Or school
to,
committee. in
to the
general.
school
Concord,
committee
they definitely do.
to talk about it. And I've always wondered, should we do that? And I just have this one example, so I shouldn't generalize from one data point. But I have to say that what I saw there was what I was afraid would happen, which is that instead of sort of a big picture discussion about really what are the drivers of the school budget and fundamentals around policy and so forth, which you might want to have, instead you kind of get people wanting to talk about things that really are best brought up in the public meeting time of a school committee meeting. And it actually felt to me like largely sort of a waste of time to having spent that. Now, there may be better models, but that's, something to think about. And so those were at least two thoughts after visiting another town meeting last week.
Towns that had, or the town that you went to that had this, they had the school committee do a presentation. Is that right?
Actually, it was the superintendent.
The superintendent. Was it therefore? Was it a different warrant, so that it was at a different time, or was it still all
no,
I meant a different article, or was it voted on separately from the rest of the town budget?
No, it was. Yes, it was. Theirs was done substantially similar to the way we do it, where you've got the entire budget. And they go through it, and you can ask for holds and so forth. But there was after the FinCom presentation of the rest of the budget, then the superintendent spoke about the school budget, and then questions came up, and they could have been on general things or on school things.
I have to say, as a member of, many years ago, the Concord and the Concord-Carlisle school committees, and going through the Concord town meeting, and where we always gave a presentation, and I was shocked the first time I came to Carlisle. And it's like, we sat over there in the corner because we were guests, and there was nothing said about the school budget at all. And it's like, don't they care? Where all that money is going. And we, and that we carefully studied and tried to present a good budget, So that's another point of view, I guess.
Yeah, so I think that's the sort of thing where kind of my takeaway was, well, maybe we should talk with the school committee about it, come back to Selectmen in the fall, and maybe ask around, and maybe just as part of the master plan.
Can't say anything about their budget because they don't have anything to do with it except for setting the guideline.
Right.
And it's really it's really the superintendent's budget. It's not even the school committee's budget in certain respects. He makes it, and then they add their tilly-pums, and they might make some little changes, but it's the superintendent's budget. And I think it would be a good idea to have the superintendent have a short presentation. But that's
We're going to 2 nights.
my own
No, not necessarily.
Yeah.
So
but
would that be Concord Carlisle and Concord Carlisle, or?
Yeah, actually,
I think you'd have to have both.
Concord Carlisle we used to come prepared to give a presentation if we needed to, and then we never needed to. So, and it was always a little bit of, I have to say, a letdown.
Well, and and potentially it ties into one of the other issues, which is always the question of the demographic that you get at town meeting, and we're frankly challenged to get people of a certain age to attend because they've got other responsibilities. So maybe if there was more attention paid to the school budget, they might
They might be coming.
come. So this is something that we ought to at least consider for next year, I would think.
That's a good idea.
And, I haven't made up my mind, but it just got me thinking about it.
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense. I mean, definitely.
Well,
I mean, how big changes are you gonna make in town meeting with the school budget?
Well, I don't know. I think it'd be more for clarity, right? Because you're not gonna get into the nitpicking of, why are we replacing these this year and that sort of stuff. I mean, those questions will come up, but
yeah,
ultimately, I think.
And as questions come up, it may not impact that year's budget, but it may impact future year's budget as the school districts know the questions that are being asked.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I have this, my view of town meeting is that it's not just about making the decisions this year.
Right.
It's also about educating and informing the voters about town government generally. And, I think it is not uncommon that people wander into town meeting soon after they first move into town, and particularly if you're like me and like, what the heck is this? And never heard of anything like that. And most other parts of the country, you just don't have it. And you find something that's maybe it piques your interest. You're a little bit curious about it. You don't really think too much about it, but then something happens in your backyard, something that gets you agitated, some public policy issue, and you can't fight City Hall. Well, actually you can when City Hall is you. It's us. It's we.
It is us.
And if people have been exposed to things through town meeting, I think that gives them a leg up on trying to understand how to take things.
Didn't we used to get a mailing with something about the budget from the schools, about how much was a,
We did this year.
We did this year.
We got one.
Yeah, okay.
we got one?
Well, I think
guess I
the
forgot to read
focus,
it.
if we did that, opted to do that, I think the focus ought to be more on the performance of the school district, not the finances of it. Because it is what it is. I mean, it always has been and it will be the biggest part of our budget. And FinCom, there is very little control that we're able to exercise over that, the way we're organized. But I think it is fair game to talk about what do we get for what we're spending in terms of the performance of our school district. And there are some, where I came from, there were sometimes actually brought in a third party that evaluated districts to talk about the performance of the district. Now, I'm not advocating that here, but I think if the focus was on the performance, what have we accomplished? What have we accomplished relative to the last 2 or 3 years? Where are we going? That would be, I think, a real good, given the demographics. And it wouldn't polarize it. You can easily get this into a thing that polarizes folks, I think, and if you focus on the dollars too much. Just a thought.
That's a good point.
So, ideas, feedback, comment?
No, I've said this before. I think, you run town meeting very well, and I like this year how, when certain things dragged on, you started, couple of minutes and then 15 seconds, but it gets the point across that, look, at either come up with something new or, you've already had your time and move on. And and I think, more and more people see that and respect that. And, I think that's one of the reasons that, town meeting, you put a lot of praise on the citizens, which I agree. I mean, it's nice when people come prepared, but, I think, you run that meeting very well, and congratulations on your reelection.
It's tough. It was
One in a landslide.
And
Yeah.
actually, I thought it was refreshing to see an amendment being made and carried. In the dog proposal, someone came up with an idea saying this would make a lot more sense if we did it this way, and the town goes for it. I mean that's the essence of town meeting. It's wonderful.
Right. Yeah.
Small D democracy.
Yeah.
which is really important.
Yeah.
I really,
Very reaffirming, I think.
Yeah, I thought you did a really great job, and I also, you know, I noticed that, you know, there was the question, like, was it 2 years ago, or even last year, as to whether, you know, like, on closed votes, and you just didn't even.
Yeah.
You just had the cards
Yep.
come up, you know,
Yep.
and I thought that was great, because it was, although we could have just held up our booklets, because they were the same color.
color. Well, that's where the
I
cards
actually
came
tore
from,
my
right?
the back
Yeah.
of my booklet
I
off,
think-
because I didn't get a card, so I tried.
Yeah.
So we did the same, we ripped them in half
Yeah.
and pulled
Yeah.
up two.
Oh,
Well,
there you go.
But the cards are a great
Just like
innovation.
Chicago.
Yeah.
well, I know, you know, we're in our town where we have our crank ballot box. You know, it's important to respect tradition even as you move forward. Part of the reason I went to this other town meeting is that I wanted to see their use of electronic voting. And, you know, because the counted votes, it's still, you know, to me, it's an aggravation that it takes 10 minutes, which strikes me as valuable time. But, you know, I was, most of the systems that are out there, you have to have a device. And so you either have to rent the device or you have to buy the device. If you buy the device, then someone has to dust them off once a year and check the batteries and
We
all
just
that.
have to have a whole lot more town meetings.
Yeah, I mean, it just, the device dependent thing didn't make sense. So I figured, okay, well, there's a new system that's device independent. They have a very, very simple app you can download on a smartphone. And typically what they say is, you know, if your school, you know, you get extra iPads or whatever from the school, and, you know, you can get enough people to do it. And I thought, okay, well, you know, maybe that could bring down the cost to something that would be affordable and reasonable to Carlisle. But it still comes down to the same problem: is trying to teach people how to use something that they've never used before, and you're only going to use once or twice a year. I mean, you'd have to sort of reteach people every year anyway, and you end up chewing up the same amount of time. So, so we're just going to have to go like this for forever.
Yeah, I do.
I love the yeas.
Yeah.
Yeas and nays.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
And
It's
the
part of
cards
what
actually
really
have
makes
been a
it the
great
democracy.
innovation
Yeah.
to help read that.
Yes.
Yeah, when it's
It really is.
close.
Now, actually, there is one. Now, I don't know about if I can maybe get the school speak to the superintendent. I hadn't even thought about this, but maybe the superintendent, just talk to the superintendent. They buy a new lectern. Actually, the one logistical problem that's a challenge for people who are presenting is that's a small, I mean, it's a little bit differently, but it's a very small lectern. And if you've got a laptop and so forth, and, you know, I don't know, we may just bring in,
Or just bring this one over there and have two
well,
of
no,
them
it's
side by
that,
side.
well, yeah, we need to do something like that, would actually make a big difference to the people who are presenting.
Seems like a pretty simple thing to fix.
Yeah, it should be, I just need to remember to do it. Like every year, I want to talk to the school staff and see if they can repoint the lights so you guys don't have to sit in the dark when
That would be nice.
when we have to douse the lights. But I'm told that the public likes to see you in the dark, so.
I like it. I doze off once in a
We
while.
like being there. It's just,
We're in the dark even when the lights are on.
Yeah.
I mean,
The shadows.
I'm not exactly sure why, but as the years go by, it's harder and harder for me to read what's in front of me when it's dark.
I don't know why either.
You probably set a record for the number of letters to the editor post-meeting that were lauding your
I got
prowess
one.
at the lectern. One, that's probably a record.
He wrote it himself.
You did a really great job.
Job
Yeah,
well done.
yeah, no, it
Thank
was. It was great.
Thank you. I did hear one comment that the chair of the Board of Selectmen mumbled sometimes.
Mumbled?
Mumbled.
Mumbled? Well then.
That
Wow.
is shocking.
We've taken care of that, we just elected a new chair.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
good.
It's done.
Okay, good, yeah.
Wow. Huh. I've never been called a mumbler. Wow. Well, hey,
You do
okay.
talk a lot.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Maybe I just talked too much and they couldn't follow.
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that my job?
Oh, and I mean, and I suppose there is actually one other thing that I think is worth mentioning, because I think it ended up, it made it much easier for me to moderate the housing authority discussion. That was that at the prior meeting, when you spoke about it, Kate had advised, look, we don't need to get into a back and forth with them, and it doesn't need to be personal and so forth, and they're going to go forward and bring it up, so let's just play it straight. And that was, I think, was the sort of the appropriate thing. It's like, once the thing is up there, you're like the other citizens, really, and don't try to ask for a special consideration as the selectmen. And I think it actually made for a more open debate, and it didn't descend into the depths that it might have. And ultimately, people got to express their wishes, and we had a decision. And I think that was good advice, and I appreciate that you all followed it.
Yeah, no, I think it went well. So, great.
Good. So until next year.
Maybe this fall, pending the conversation we just had.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, we haven't had a special in a while, so.
Since last year.
Well, since last year.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, I wasn't here for that. Okay.
Yeah.
If we need to have a special, I would particularly ask if the planning board, if there's like any zoning things, or, in other towns, often what they do where it's more regular that they would anticipate that they'll need a special, oftentimes the zoning articles are actually, they're reserved, and so that way you can keep your annual a little bit shorter, and the zoning things don't sort of get short shrift. So, if the planning board has anything that needs to be dealt with, it might behoove them to move it up, and we can get it done at a fall town meeting and keep annual a little bit shorter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Work hard on it, probably get it ready.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Alrighty. Thank you, Wayne.
Sorry. Yeah. Do you want, while Wayne's still here? Yeah. Sure.
Different quorum for a special town meeting than you've had for an annual town meeting? Is it possible?
Different what?
Quorum?
Different quorum.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
The quorum is, for every town meeting, I believe.
How is that set, the quorum?
It's set by the town bylaw, so that's 150.
Right.
And we can change it anytime we
I know
want.
we've tried before to change it, we have changed it before, but I was just wondering if we did have special town meeting in the fall with zoning bylaws, I'm wondering if we would have difficulty getting a quorum. I think it's a good idea to have it so.
Well, yeah, no, my observation is I don't think we have enough business to regularly anticipate that we'd have a special every year. So I wouldn't sort of make that a general practice, or it's just, if we're going to have a special anyway, it's worth asking, are there other things that, perhaps might take a little bit more debate, where if you were able to do it in a special, it would work a little bit better.
There's the potential of a marijuana zoning bylaw.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to the scenic road one? That didn't come in time last year.
Oh, I don't know.
Scenic road?
Yeah. What's the, I'm spacing on what
Pathways.
this road right here.
Yeah.
I think I need to be going this way.
Yeah, that
Ro- Rockland.
Rockland.
That was, they wanted that to be a scenic road.
Oh, yeah, that's on the west.
But it didn't get on the warrant in time, and so we said no, and then it didn't come up again.
This fell off, yeah.
Pathways may get ready, who knows? whatever they started, that we didn't put on the warrant this,
Yep.
this time around, so we maybe
Yeah.
should be, so what I hear you saying is we should beat the bushes a little. If we know we're gonna have a special, we should try to, I don't wanna say pile on, but we could,
Yeah.
see if we can get more than just one thing
Right,
in there.
exactly, have a couple
Yeah.
of them.
Okay.
Yeah, and rather do a day in the fall and a day
Right,
in the
right.
spring than do
Right.
2 days in the spring.
Right, got it.
And a half a day in the fall.
I was
Yeah.
very glad that you decided to push it through.
Yes.
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 Totally the right call.
Yeah.
Oh, it was,
I think people were just in the mode. I mean, other than those
Yeah.
people that got up and left. but-
Yeah.
Yeah, and luckily, nobody asked for
Nobody asked for a count.
clarification
That's
of.
that's part of training new people.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very
Alrighty,
much.
thank you very
Great,
much.
thank you, Wade. Yeah. No, go ahead.
Were you gonna go?
Yeah, no, but go ahead.
No, well, I was just gonna mention that Gina Fox is here. She requested the race amity
Oh, okay.
proclamation, so maybe she could explain.
Yeah, come on up.
Yeah.
Come on up. Oh, we took things
Yeah,
out of
yeah,
order.
we moved things around.
Way ahead.
Yeah.
I was advised to come a little later, but I just wanted to say thank you very much for for your support, and I think it's a really wonderful thing for Carlisle. The police department signed a letter of support for it, and I just wanted to come personally and say thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think-
Yeah.
Is there a proclamation? I think I just need to sign it, right?
Well,
Maybe you could explain a little bit about some of the events that are upcoming for the board's benefit?
Well, we are, right now, we're discussing having sort of a pop-up picnic with people bringing the food of their culture. So something to be interactive, to get people, the race amity is about developing friendships and bonding with people of other, whether it's religion, race, culture, whatever. So to have a picnic where people bring food of their ethnicity and get people involved in, circling and socializing. I've also talked with the Multicultural Festival, and we're talking about maybe next year we could tag together and have a whole weekend where multicultural one day, race amity the next day, and trying to think of some kind of activities that would involve children.
Mhm.
So whether it be there's a bingo game people can play that asks different questions, that cultural related questions, and have bingo or just something to involve children. So since
Great.
they're the most important ones to influence.
We have a beautiful center park that you could have outdoor events.
Yeah,
There you go.
That's what I was hoping
yeah,
that
you get the plug in every meeting.
have the park, and have a picnic there.
Great.
I'll bring the borscht.
Yeah.
Yes, perfect.
Great. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And have a great evening, everyone.
So just to get back to the town meeting recap, does anybody have anything that they wanted to bring up? Obviously there was the housing piece, and we spent a lot of time with that, and, they obviously, the money wasn't, put into the budget for the coordinator. We do have a plan moving forward. I think the board, and Alan, you'll have to get all the information from Tim, but, I think the board was, supportive of that plan, so I think we should, continue with that plan and, continue to kind of work towards, our goals is not only selectmen, but, the housing trust, and obviously this will be a larger discussion, at the housing trust, but, I think part of it is we made a promise to the town, and, we figured, while we cut a portion of the budget, we figure we can, use our resources more wisely, you know, and I think, you know, hopefully the Housing Authority is gonna reach out to Tim and Jen. But, you know, I think we need to, you know, do what we promised the town and continue with the mediation and, move forward with that. Hopefully, the Housing Authority will, choose to work with us. You know, there was some talk, prior to in some of our meetings that, you know, if they didn't have the coordinator, they would resign. So resignations haven't come in, so, you know, I'm hoping that they've reconsidered, but we'll see. You know, but moving forward, I think, you know, the goal is gonna be to continue, you know, with the path forward that we wanted, you know, as a collaboration, work together to get to a common goal. But, you know, it's gonna be without a housing coordinator. And, you know, we just gotta see how things play out, so.
Yeah, I think, if I can just add to that, I think, you know, we talked a lot about the master planning as being an important factor in this, but I think that the Board of Selectmen should take a very strong, active role in addressing the affordability needs and housing diversity, partly because I think that we need to show that leadership, but also partly because the Housing Trust and the Housing Authority are a little bit more limited in the options that they can look into. But the Board of Selectmen can look across all of the options that are available. So I think the first thing is very much, we need to know what our goal is. And then I think that the Board of Selectmen should take a very active role in driving that, because we can have the larger scope. And then the Housing Trust and the Housing Authority can, you know, take the active role in those components of the overall plan that are directly within what they're legally allowed to do. But we're not only limited to what they can look into. We have the larger portfolio.
Yeah. Yeah, so this gets into, you know, the senior options that we've discussed, or,
Right.
you know, housing for, you know, town employees, you know, things that, you know, if they restrict 40B, you know, we'd have restrictions in certain things. And if we are gonna look at true affordability, you know, I think as Nathan said, you know, we can look at the broader picture. And, you know, instead of just coming with a 40B approach, come with a true affordability approach, you know, as the Board of Selectmen.
Right, and with the understanding that, you know, some of those things that we may select, you know, can't be CPA funds.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, that's okay, we have to just discuss them and
Right.
either rule them out or rule them in, and then have the town decide
Right.
what they want to do.
My mantra is talk is cheap, and I think we need to do a lot of talking, get all the ideas out, and sort through them, because if we limit ourselves and don't talk about anything, nothing, we can't, it's just, you have to get it all out.
Well, and time is becoming of the essence, because the planning board is planning to have their first community input before the end of June.
Ooh, okay. Be nice if they let us know when that is, because
Yeah.
Well,
I'd
they
like to be
just,
there.
it's gelling as we speak, but it'll be, I forget the date, but I think the third week in June on a Saturday at the school cafeteria kind of thing. So a lot of publicity will have to precede that, and making people aware of it, but that's, it's gonna kickstart pretty quick. Yeah.
In terms of the staffing piece of our plan, and I did mention this to Tim today, my one concern is, you know, do people know who they're supposed to call? Who, you know, if you have some housing issue, you know, we used to have a housing coordinator. I'm not sure they even knew they'd call her at this point, but the question is, who knows who to call? And if they were to call COA, are they equipped to answer those
I
calls?
think
And
Tim is working on that.
is there some training that they can get their hands on, and,
Yeah, it's not
yeah.
clear that there is, but if there is, we're gonna make sure.
yeah,
that,
okay,
yeah, folks get it.
and given that they then become trained, you know, is it gonna occur to somebody that they should call COA?
Right.
for housing, if they're 25 years old, and they're probably not. So how do we get that word out, and, you know,
Right,
or
we
do
could
they
easily
call
have the
Tim
housing
and then?
coordinator's phone number ring on COA, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
We should make
right
that
now
change.
it's
Okay,
sitting on
so I mean,
Jen's
that's what
desk.
I'm
right now,
concerned about,
Jen's
those
handling it.
mechanics.
Well, Angela handles a lot of non-senior issues. A lot.
Well, I know she
So
does.
they-
You know, she
Everybody's,
has-
who do you call? Call Angela.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
has all the answers, so she's.
Yeah,
she
but
really
she doesn't
is
necessarily have
Have the
these, and I
training.
think she would be feeling better if she knew at least where else to have them call if, you know, she
Yeah.
doesn't have the answer, you know.
Well, that's the thing, I think the idea is that they would get punted to Tim, and then ultimately, if you couldn't answer it, you know, you would seek outside advice or counsel or whatnot. I mean,
Yeah,
you would,
right
you
now,
would
the
do that.
bulk of it is written correspondence, but it's maybe a letter or two a week, and not even.
Me and Angela, we met last week and we both have the same information that we give out. So she gave me some of the local chapters and
Okay.
things like that, and I gave her the list of who's that we give out.
Yeah.
All right, that's good, I'm just trying to.
I learned today that the housing office is the one that were the shared resources that we've spoken to. There's a similar one that's basically centered around Littleton. There's another group of towns that are doing the same thing.
The Metro West one.
Yes.
I think it's based in Hudson, but Littleton.
Yes, it is
and
based in
Foxborough are
Hudson.
part of it.
Right.
That's another,
Yeah.
They have a slightly different mission though, right?
a little different than the RHSO. but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. They were a little less of a good, perfect fit, but a possibility.
So, in terms of the facilitated meeting, that's the trust authority thing, is not the, because it's hard
Yeah.
to separate sometimes, you
Yeah,
know, which
it
hat
is.
are we
It
wearing,
is.
the trust or
Mm.
the selectmen hat? So, that we really need to get moving
Yeah,
on,
that's
and
the trust, I think.
Okay.
I think the one thing we might wanna wait is for them to settle a little bit, cause they have some new people, but, that's the trust.
And we're gonna be making new appointments to the trust in June or not?
Yeah.
We will,
Mosquito.
Yeah.
we will have to.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we may be reappointing,
Yeah.
but we need to do all that.
Yeah.
And the sooner we
Right.
get that done, I'm just concerned, the sooner we get that done, the sooner we can do this
Yep.
facilitating, because
Yeah.
last year, we talked about it for a whole year and it never got done,
Mhm.
because there was always, you know, it was a serial thing.
Right.
And I think we need to really just say,
Mhm.
that's it, you know,
Yep.
we're doing it.
Yeah.
So, about the trusts, I didn't realize until late last week that the meeting was this Wednesday.
It's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This Wednesday,
Right.
tomorrow.
Yeah, I was the same, and
I'm
I
not
actually
sure
said
that I'm
that
gonna be able to make
yeah,
it.
Can't.
Steve
I've been
can't
trying
make it.
I've been trying to
Steve's
move
in
things
Japan.
around, but
Japan.
I'm not sure I'm gonna be successful in doing
Steve's
that.
in Japan, I know you can't make it.
Right.
I'll be
Tomorrow at 7. Bill,
Bill's always
So we'll
available
have a
for town
quorum.
stuff.
Kate?
Yeah, but it would be helpful to know in advance, because, rather than just get a notice of a meeting, because, I mean.
I just didn't know that it was, until I got the agenda, I didn't know that it was a date.
No, none of us did.
Yeah.
I haven't seen an agenda.
You haven't seen
That's
an
because you weren't on the
agenda?
email.
You weren't.
But now you can be, yeah.
So I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to make it tomorrow.
Oh,
Okay, actually, does he have to get sworn in for the trust?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll
Yes.
have to get,
So
well,
tomorrow-
Charlene usually does that.
Yeah, but
So-
before
She's no
the meeting
longer-
tomorrow,
All right, I'll get that done
No, but
tomorrow.
she's around.
Yeah, yeah, 'cause she did it with me, she swore me in for the selectmen and the trust.
Yeah, she just did selectmen.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Oh, she's slipping. See,
Well,
that's what
she's
happens,
got
you
one foot out the
retire,
door.
yeah, you retire and you forget these
Short
things, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, so make sure you do it for the trust as well. I guess the only other thing that, you know, we might see as the Board of Selectmen's dog stuff, you know, and obviously speed limits, but I guess we kinda take those
I gotta
as
tell
they
you,
come.
there may be people are not clear on the concept, but I have been noticing more poop bags just thrown into the woods. I mean, people have picked the poop up and then thrown the poop, bag and all, into the woods.
Hmm.
And I find that very disturbing.
It's even worse, yeah.
That's been a real big issue in Concord.
Yeah.
You know,
They say
so.
the only reason people subscribe to the Globe is when they get the bags.
Haha. Yeah, so, as I said, unclear on the concept, I don't know, but we gotta, maybe we need to put a letter into the mosquito. Like, no, you know, you're supposed to pick it up and take it with you.
Yeah.
Dispose it of it.
Right, yeah,
Pack your trash out.
right.
Throw it
Yeah.
in Luke's yard.
Most people do anyway.
On the mediation, I read a number of housing production plans from various towns, and the ones that impressed me the most all had one consulting firm involved with them. And I phoned the person that was there, helped them with their plans. And I met her at one of the meetings we attended
Yeah.
over the housing
Last year.
office, yeah. And so there are people that know a lot about housing that are good consultants in terms of things like mediation and that sort of thing that we could tap. But if we're gonna get on with this and get it started, we should.
Well, it's not on the agenda for tomorrow night, but I
No,
think we
it's
need to
not.
get it on our next agenda,
Yeah.
for the trust.
Yeah, I purposely did not put it on a trust agenda because it shouldn't be a trust.
No, it is a
driven
trust.
issue.
It is a trust-driven issue. That's what we just finished saying. Because that's what I was asking, is it a selectman-driven issue or is it a trust-driven issue? And they were
The
thinking.
mediation?
Yeah.
I think it's
Facilitation.
It's a Board of
Yeah.
Selectmen sponsored
Right.
issue.
Yeah.
Well, then.
But it's actually mediation between really all of us, right? But, I kind of think that, you know, we do definitely want to do it, but I think that, we might want to just let things settle down a bit with the housing authority because they have, how many, they have,
Well,
we're not sure what's gonna happen with Alan leaving, right? We can't-
no, his seat's gonna stay vacant until the state decides what to do.
Right.
Right.
And
So,
then they had,
yeah, Barbara left.
Barbara left.
For
And
personal reasons.
right, there's one of Mark's neighbors, one of
Carolyn-
your neighbors.
Carolyn,
Did Carolyn resign?
no, she's still.
Okay, yeah, so it's Carolyn, Steve, Mark,
Carolyn
and,
and, Steve
Carolyn,
Froman,
Steve, and the newly
Mark.
elected.
right, the new person.
Mark.
Bersey, or
Beers?
Beers, yeah.
But my point about, I don't think it should be the trust taking the lead on it, because anyone the trust would want, I think, would automatically make the housing authority suspect. If they'd like to have this person do it, you know, we want our own person to do it, kind of thing. There's that
Well,
element to it.
they wanted to know who it was gonna be, but I think they need to work with us on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
yeah. Especially if we're gonna fund it.
yeah.
Yeah, but also too, I mean, you know, if it's a competent, credible person, you know.
I think
mean,
they
that's-
wanted to make sure that it was somebody who knew something about housing.
Yeah, yeah,
And we can certainly solicit some names from them.
yeah.
And if they happen to openly overlap with some of our names, then great, perfect, we can move ahead.
Yeah, no, actually, one last thing, yeah, we did get an email forwarded to us about, this has nothing to do with town meeting, but it is gonna be something that, we're gonna have to address this year, it's, you know, stickers at the transfer station. So, I forget the
Oh.
exact number, but it's some crazy number of people didn't have stickers. So,
Yes.
40%.
yeah,
And I don't understand why they feel that they can't be enforcement.
because I think, so I've had this
Because I've
conversation
had
with
them
Gary.
ask me about my sticker before.
Right, but you don't yell and scream and get violent. And apparently Gary said a lot of people actually get quite belligerent. So his guys just back off. So it may be that, you know, we have to talk with Chief Fisher and, you know, we pop a cop in there one day with, you know, a plate reader.
I did it at the hazardous waste day.
Yeah,
And I checked everybody's sticker coming through, and if they didn't have a sticker, I said, go to the town hall and get one.
Yeah.
Go to the police station and
Yeah.
get one.
Yeah.
And you can't drop off your hazardous waste until you do.
right. Yep, no, which is good. And, you know, I
was
mean.
hollered at by one person.
Yeah. Oh, that's not bad. You know, but ultimately too, I think, you know, part of this is, you know, it's not, you know, Carlisle residents who aren't doing it, you know, shame on you sort of thing. I mean, it's the same people that don't register their dogs and, you know, just be responsible and get your sticker, get your dog license. But it's, you know, I think part of this, you know, the email too is the concern that we've got out-of-towners coming in.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, ultimately, you know, Gary's guys aren't gonna be able to check and see if that plate is actually a Carlisle plate. And, you know, there've been a couple of times where I've been in there and I've called the police station and said, you know, this guy clearly, you know, you get those people that go in and they're just
Get the
lost,
vibe.
right?
Yeah.
And you just know that they're not a Carlisle resident. You call, and, well, we can't tell you that. I'm like, okay, but I'm just reporting this, but ultimately, you know.
Shouldn't matter, right?
Right, well, that's just
I
it.
mean, really, yeah.
Right, that's just it. And, you know, but again, I think as the board, we need to figure out, one, some sort of recourse that we have against people who, you know, come into town and illegally dump. But also, two, you know, if there's some way to really get a true handle on the number. You know, I think, you know, you have a cruiser in there with a plate reader that can, you know, bing, 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 you know, so everybody that comes through. I mean, I like Claude's
Why do
idea
you
of the
need a
gate.
plate reader? Why can't you just look for the Carlisle dump sticker?
Because a lot of Carlisle residents don't have a dumpster. So, I mean, it's more
Well,
so.
then they can go get one.
No, they can, I understand that, but my thinking is just, you know, you're gonna get Carlisle residents who just don't get a sticker, but my real curiosity is, how many out-of-towners do we actually get in there?
So, but
You
we
know?
can figure that out if we get people to get a
Well,
sticker.
the other thing we found in
Right, but
hazardous
it's
waste
easier
today
to bing,
was
bing,
that
bing.
50% of the cars had their sticker on their dashboard.
Yeah, yeah.
I do that, I do that for
Right.
a
Yes,
while,
'cause you got-
because.
You get multiple cars.
Right.
Well, no, you're supposed to get one, you're supposed to get
No,
one
you're
for each
supposed to
car.
get one for the other car.
You're
Right.
supposed to get one for
That's
every
all right.
car, but I do that because it's January, it's not gonna,
Yeah.
I know, yes.
it's
Yeah.
dirty, it's not gonna
It's
stick.
dirty, and, yeah,
I
and,
agree.
and you wanna be careful not to put it on top of your, little
But I think if we
sensors.
just,
Yeah.
you know, randomly, 2-3 times a year, stuck somebody at the entrance to there for the main
Yes.
morning
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
And just check stickers.
I mean, I've seen
Right,
it in
you
the
can
Solve
do
past.
problems.
that, yeah.
It would be very simple.
I've
It
seen
doesn't
it
have
in
to
the
be a
past.
cop,
Right.
it just has to be somebody who says, I'm a town official and I'm checking you out.
No sticker, see you later. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
can't-
they
you
used to
can't
do it in
go
like
to-
March,
you know,
didn't they, or
go get
sometime
one.
right around then?
Yeah, sometimes,
It was a
yeah.
couple of months after, you know, hey,
Yeah.
a couple of months to get your sticker, and then,
Yep.
then there was a cop sitting there.
Yeah. Right.
And
Right.
there was a really long line at the police station.
Yeah.
Yep.
So not to beat a dead horse, but on mediation,
Oh,
next
sorry.
steps,
Yeah.
Yes, no, I think.
what should we do?
So, I am the
Yeah.
liaison for the housing authority, so
Mm-hmm.
how about if I, as liaison to the housing authority, say that this came up in our discussion and we would like to, move ahead with this, and do they have the names of anybody, and if they don't, you know, we have to have some sort of a reasonable time.
Mhm.
What,
Mhm.
2, 3, 4 weeks, what do you want? You know, if they can give us a list within
Yeah.
3 weeks, we will then take that list under advisement and, you know, try to set something up.
Yeah.
Yep. I
Yeah.
think the first question is, do they still wanna do it?
Mhm.
And then,
Boy, they
'cause
sure-
they need to be fully bought into this,
Right.
right?
Yeah, they do.
You know, are they all in on it?
Right. Right. Either they're
Got a list of
vested in it or
names.
they're not. And if they're not, then.
Then we need to
appreciate
figure out
them.
what to do.
Right, and we would appreciate them letting us know that and not just dragging it out to
Right.
say, oh,
Right.
well, look, nothing's been done.
Right.
Because that seems to be one of their strategies. But again, I don't wanna go down
Let's
that
not
road,
get-
but.
don't
No,
go
no,
down that rabbit hole.
Right, but that's the thing, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, we wanna move this
This
and
is-
basically, they need to know we're not gonna let them stall it, so.
Well, that's why I wanna give them,
Right.
you know, and I wanna give them a chance to suggest names.
Right, yeah.
But I think 3 weeks for, you
Yeah,
know,
3 weeks,
one
yeah.
cycle for, you know,
Right.
I can find out when their next meeting is,
Yeah.
but the next meeting, for them to give us the names,
Yeah.
so that we can move ahead to,
Right.
so,
Yeah.
okay?
Yep, I like that idea.
Okay. Now I gotta find out if they're ever meeting again,
Mm.
cause now that they don't have anything to talk about, it's possible they're not meeting, so I'll have to find that out. And I know Steve Perlman, we know Steve Perlman is
Steve's in Japan right now.
Japan, so, you know, this might still be another couple of weeks
Yeah.
before we get off the ground.
Right. Yeah, but yeah, if you don't get a response, I mean, you know, I think it's perfectly fine if you reach out to Mark.
I will.
As the chair.
I will.
And say, you know.
I will email him tomorrow.
Yep, sounds great. Great, thanks.
All right, I move we adjourn.
Okay, all those in favor?
That was quick.
Aye.
Aye.
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done.
Sucker.